Good evening, people. So today we're gonna be live with Master Singh. I forgot Singh's real name because since he's changed it all up on. I remember he's from Slough. Master Singh, give me an invite, bro. Let me try to add you. How's it going, people? Everyone bless. Invite Master Singh. Yeah, Master Singh, give me an ad, brother. Request to join the video if Master Singh's there. So he's starting to do videos about Sikhi and in basic format for the youth. Talks about his journey. Hi guys. Master Singh, could you give me a request? I tried to invite you, but I couldn't do it, man. Well, man, let me try again. Master. Bruv, try to join. Accept. Go live.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ
Khalsa.
ਫਤਿਹ
Wagyu Fateh. Kidda Singh, long time, bro.
ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਬਾਬਾ ਜੀ how you doing bro
I'm alright, man. What's your real name again, bruv?
ਦਵਿੰਦਰਪਾਲ ਸਿੰਘ
That's it.
yeah
That's it. Because obviously you changed up all your socials, innit? So.
yeah I got given the new name innit master I got given that by Mahapurush in Punjab
Oh, did you? Oh,
yeah
I thought it was just social marketing, bro.
no, no, I'm not that full of myself bro but I got
Yeah.
given that name innit I thought it was like it's a big name to carry innit but
What did they? What? Sorry, but what they give? What did they say? Master, or is that the English version, or did they give you a Punjabi version, or did you just say master?
basically Baba Joginder Singh ji I was with them in Rakba and Babaji gives nicknames to all the Forge, or names, not even nicknames, names to all the Forge. And I was in Rakbar talking to Babaji. Babaji was asking me about work and stuff,
Yeah,
and I work with children. And Babaji's like, "What, like a teacher?" I'm like, "Basically, yeah." And Babaji's like, "Oh, so you're a master?" Because in Punjab they don't call
yeah,
them
teacher,
Mister or
master.
Sir, they say master. I'm like, "Yeah, I guess so." I didn't really think anything of it. And then I think it was the next day, Babaji starts saying to the Singhs, "I'll go get Master. Where's Master? Go get Master." And they come up to me, they're like, "Oh, Babaji's calling you. You're Master, in it." And I'm like, "Am I?" You know what I mean? Like, is
Yeah,
that my name now? So basically, I became my name. And yeah, that's my dull name, Master.
Dalning. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Baba Jaginder Singh, is that the one? Is the old guy with the stick? That guy?
Yeah, Siane Hagiana. Yeah,
Yeah, the one that comes here and he's got the stick, and I think he's had a
they're
stroke or something like that. Cause
they've had various illnesses, not a stroke, but they've had various
okay,
illnesses over the years.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I know who you're on about. Yeah,
Yeah.
what dal are they?
Buddha Dal.
Buddha
Buddha Dal
Dal, okay,
in
okay.
Rakba. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
come to Wolverhampton and I think they land farms in Warsaw and stuff like that, innit?
Yeah, there's a farm that we come to in the Midlands, Walsall area, and then
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
one in, like near Gatwick Airport as well, Crawley.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
What happens at the farms, man? What goes down?
So basically, Singhs pitch up tents, and
Yeah.
we basically live off the land. We do langar, we do kirtan, maryada, the nitnem, everything, and it's just basically a nand the whole time that Babbaji's
So
here.
it's
All the
just like an
Sunday
old
preaching.
school one, old school to sort
Yeah,
of what do you used
yeah,
to call them? Shawnees, kind of
yeah,
a makeshift Shawnee type, innit?
yeah. Basically, yeah. They do that Chakravarti in Punjab anyway,
Oh yeah,
but
they're different. Punjab's different level, innit?
yeah, but it doesn't help for us to think like, okay, that's different and this is different. It's like that's still it's aspirational to get ourselves to the same level that the things are at in Punjab. I mean, I spoke about it in one of the videos I made about the farmers' protest, right? In Punjab,
Mm.
it wasn't even Punjab, it was Delhi, right? And all the Nihang Singhs, all the Khalsa Forge, they were basically between the protesters and the police. And that is a vision that I can see us living up to. That's what we were created for. That's what the Khalsa's created for, right? And not
Yeah,
just in Punjab, not just in Delhi, but here as well. Wherever we are, wherever things are, we should be. This is what I mean by sovereignty. Is the thing you see the things at the protest? They're not under the police. They're not under the army. They're not under the government. They're separate from them. And that's what sovereignty looks like to me. It's not asking the UN for a bit of land. It's saying, you know what? No one's above me. Only God is above me. That's it.
yeah. God and Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, the general of the Panth, innit?
One and the same. But yeah, yeah.
Mm. So let's before we get into anything, let's take it back, man. So it used to be Davinder Singh.
Yeah.
Then the Dal has given you the name Master Singh because he's a teacher, not because he's they know all of everything here. Because in India they call him teacher, called teacher, master's teacher, same thing. So let's take
Yeah.
it way back, man. He's Slough resident, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
Slough,
Yeah, I was born and raised in
always
Slough.
Slough, born and bred Slough.
I lived elsewhere. I've lived in London. I've lived in Dubai. Lived in Germany. Lived in a few different places, but came back to Slough. You know, Slough's where the heart is. You know what I mean? So, well,
That's where you were
Derby
born,
real
and
heart is, but you know, in UK terms,
yeah.
came back to Slough.
Okay, so take us back to your life journey, how you grew up, and what type of family you had, and just take us back right from the start to to how you got into Sikhi journey. So so people
Wow.
get to know you before we get to your Sikhi views and
Yeah,
Sikhi
yeah,
content. Let's see the man behind Dvinder Singh, Master Singh.
yeah, bro. What is there to say, really? I mean, I was raised gay study. You know, my parents weren't particularly strict. They weren't Amritdari. They
No.
are now, but they weren't then. And my dadaji, dadiji, they shaked Amrit late in life, but there was never any real kind of like pressure on me to shak Amrit. It was, or even to be religious in any way. Do you know what I mean? And my Nanaji was actually a Ra Kirtani, and he was an Ustad, so he used to teach Ra Kirtan. But
Wow.
even he wasn't like keeping rehat or anything. He shaked Amrit when he was younger, but in my life, when I knew him, he was like, you know, he wasn't keeping rehat, he wasn't presenting himself as Amritdari or anything like that. He was just someone who knew a lot about Rag Kirtan. And they taught us, you know, like he and his other students who were like of a certain age taught myself and my cousins and, you know, the Sangat, basically the children in the Sangat. And that was part of my life growing up. You know, that's something I'm really grateful for, having like Rag Kirtan as part of my life, you know, in my home
Amazing.
growing up, you know. And
Um,
but like I said, you know, we weren't like vegetarian, we weren't religious in any way. We didn't do like Bart or anything like nickname. We
mm,
would do Kirtan, we'd learn Kirtan, but you know, that's about it. And I'd keep my gears as well. And so I moved, like when I was in Slough, we moved when I was very young to a part of Slough which is a bit less ghetto than when I was, you know,
yeah.
really young. But still, it was like, you know, my parents were working a minimum wage job when I was really young, you
Okay.
know.
Okay.
And you know, I don't want to do it down. I don't want to say, okay, you know, we came from poverty, whatever. But it was like it
Yeah.
wasn't anything special, because I think a lot of people think, because of the way I speak and the way I present myself, you know, I get it. I've heard it before, that people think I'm born with a silver spoon in my mouth and
Yeah.
whatever. You know, like compared to some people, I am. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is that, you know, my parents. I watched my parents make like a life for themselves. Do you know what I mean? They worked their way up from, you know, being married. They didn't know each other until their wedding day. They never met each other. And
Wow.
then my parents slowly, holy, they started making different um, moves. Like my mum would get her accountancy qualifications. My dad would change from working for someone to starting his own business. And, you know, I watched it all happen in front of me. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of learned, you know, from them growing up, like what is possible in life, you know. And yeah, basically, I grew up in my primary school. It was very a glorified kind of primary school. So it was in a working class part of town. So it was like
Mm,
working class Gordon, but it was cool. It was calm, you know what I mean? And there was a little bit of racism when I was really young, but
mm-hmm.
there was another thing, you know, we stuck together. There was a Ghana friend of mine and a Muslim friend of mine, you know, we all stuck together. We all had each other's backs. So basically, like after the first, you know, few months or whatever, it was fine. Do you know what I mean? It was calm. There wasn't, you know, I wouldn't say I had like a traumatic childhood or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? And then I went to grammar school, and then for sixth form, I went to another grammar school, but it was a bit more glorified. It was a bit kind of posher, but it wasn't like a public school. It was a, you know, state school, grammar school,
Yeah. Or state
and
grammar school. Yeah.
yeah, and that's when like I started having to speak a bit more clearly, because people literally didn't understand me. Like I was like everyone else in Slough. I would be
Yeah.
called using the lingo and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And I was speaking like everybody else, and and they didn't understand me. Literally, me and one of my other friends who was like proper from the ends, like we used to chill together, and then other people just didn't understand what we were saying, so we had to kind of like adjust. You know what I mean? We had to adapt, and And I also had like a next door neighbor when I was young who was the lady was German and her husband was Polish. And
Yeah.
she used to teach me, she used to look after me before and after school, like when my
Okay.
parents were working full time. And she used to teach me German as well. That's why I lived in Germany later on in life because I learned German. And
Oh
she
wow.
also, yeah, she also used to like correct me on my English and stuff like that. So, you know, there's a reason why I speak the way I speak and I come across the way that I come across. Um, and some people might think I'm a quite posh or whatever for a saying from Slough.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I am. I don't know. I don't really think about it
No,
too
you
much.
definitely are because I know
Yeah,
quite a few Slough people, Canva, Bizzle, Skip Brothers, and all them lot. Like they had a big firm back in the day. Slough was
yeah.
quite active when I was younger and when I was in the scene. The Godoras was doing like there's always had politics in it. But
Yeah.
yeah, so you're definitely different from them guys. What you know, what I
They,
mean,
they
definitely
used
from
to go to
this.
Punjabi school with me as well. Those boys.
Oh, did
Yeah,
they?
yeah,
You
yeah.
still in touch with them?
I see them around, innit? I don't really like. I keep myself to myself though, innit? Just in general.
Yeah,
But
no, fair play.
yeah, just and even the Punjabi school, that was like I realized I was like 14 years old and I could barely speak a word of Punjabi. And
Wow,
even now my
crazy.
Punjabi's not great, but I realized that I need to learn Punjabi in it. So I went back into Punjabi school. I used to go when I was really, really young, and then about 8, 9 years old I stopped. But then when I was 14 years old, I was like, you know what, even though I'm gonna be like those boys are younger than me, like I was in Kamwa's class. Kam was about, 3, 4 years younger than me. And I
Okay.
was enrolled into his class. I was the oldest in the class, but it's because I knew that I needed to learn Punjabi. I needed to put some effort in and actually learn my Maboli, So there was that. And then yeah, I went to a grammar school which was quite glorified. And then at that grammar school, just before my A levels, I started getting really sick. Started getting really ill, getting like lots of pain in my stomach. And it was, my exams were around the corner and I went
What
to
age was that? What age? 16, 15,
18, 18. I was
18.
18, yeah. And I just turned 18 and I was getting really ill. And then basically the doctor sent me to the hospital. Hospital had a look at me and just said, look, we need to do an emergency operation on you and get your
Wow.
appendix taken out. So they took me and they said it's going to be a 45-minute operation. They took me and opened me up, realized that my appendix is fine. It was my intestines that had been basically burnt out, like someone had set fire to them. And basically they had to cut 90 centimeters of my intestines out and stitch me back up again. And yeah, they diagnosed me with a condition called Crohn's disease, which is like inflammation of your intestines. And so I was in hospital, my exams happened, I was still in hospital. So I had to resit year 13 again. And what they did is they had exams in January and exams in the summer. So between January and the summer, I had those 3 or 4 months where I had time off basically. So that's when I lived in Germany, got a job, lived in Germany for 3 or 4 months, and came back to the UK, sat my exams, went to university, went to a good university, and that got me into media basically. I wanted to be a journalist and got a job as a journalist in Dubai. I lived there for about a year and a half. And my first job as a journalist, came back to London and it was business journalism. So I was writing about what technology businesses were doing, like Apple, Google, Microsoft, all those kind of guys, what's going on in that kind of
Mm,
sector. And then came back to the UK, came back, stayed in London. And then gradually, I think around 24 years old, I went through a bad breakup. And until I was like, when I went into hospital the first time around,
mm.
when I was like 15, 14, about 15 years old, that's when I started drinking, smoking, doing all the drugs and all that kind of stuff.
15, yeah?
And yeah, that's when I started.
Well,
Yeah,
alcohol as well at that
yeah,
age.
yeah.
Okay, that's young, isn't it?
But like
Mm.
16, 17 is where it got really bad. And by 18, literally, it was so bad. That was the biggest cause, like especially the smoking. That was the
Yeah,
biggest cause of why I got ill. Because they said to me, it was two things that really mess you up that can cause Crohn's disease. One is stress, and that was
yeah,
the exams that were coming up. And then the
yeah.
other one is tobacco, smoking tobacco. And obviously, as a Sikh, you're not supposed to do that anyway.
No,
But
no.
I was young and stupid, and
Yeah.
so
Everyone
so
goes through something, innit? Yeah.
right. But then I was stupid enough that in when I was 18, I went to hospital. I sorted it all out. Carried on drinking for a couple of years because they didn't say
Wow.
that there was a problem with drinking. They said
Okay.
there's a
Okay.
problem with smoking and drugs. And I'm
Smoking.
like, yeah. And then even at uni, I was drinking way too much. So I stopped drinking. I just got to a point where I was just like, I was just hungover, like
Yeah.
blackout drunk every single day. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, something's got to give in it. And then
Any other drugs? Any other drugs? Cocaine or anything like that?
yeah, yeah,
Ecstasy?
yeah. That was so just before I went into hospital the first time.
Yeah.
I was just starting to get involved in cocaine. A couple of my friends were starting to deal as well, and I was like, "Mara,
Wow.
save me," because I was about to go in that direction and really throw my
Yeah.
life away, you know.
Yeah.
And instead, I got really ill, but it saved me from what could have been, And
Yeah.
then when I came back from Dubai, I was working in London and I was in a relationship, and that
Yeah.
just ended badly. It just went really badly at the end. And I ended up basically falling off the wagon and started drinking again, smoking again, doing
Heartbreaking it.
drugs
When you
again.
get heartbroken and emotionally wounded.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
first time that I was hurt that hard, you know what I mean? And and yeah, so basically I fell off the wagon, did that kind of stuff again, and I carried on doing that from age of about 24 to about 30, 31 maybe. But around that age, 30, is when I start getting really like depressed and suicidal,
30, yeah.
basically.
30,
Yeah, I
yeah.
tried. Yeah, yeah. I tried to kill myself a couple of times.
Shit,
Um,
bro.
yeah, one was when I was in Spain. I was on a work trip in Spain, and I'd been drinking. And
Uh,
for my health, I was given these steroids as well. And I completely forgot that I was on these steroids, and these steroids cause like
yeah.
roid rage. And they're not the kind of steroids that
Wow.
make your muscles big. They're the
Yeah.
ones that like give you lining for your intestines. They rebuild the
Okay.
lining of your intestines,
Okay.
but they still give you that roid rage. So
Yeah.
you get these mood swings. And I had like a fairly small like altercation at work, like a small kind of like misunderstanding more than anything else. But my
Yeah.
mind, because I was drinking as well on this all of this stuff going on at the same time, I took it way out of context, and I was already like close to suicide. I was already depressed at the time because I just wasn't fulfilled in my life. Like
Yeah.
I was doing this job, and it was like this isn't doing anything in the world. I became a journalist because I wanted to make a difference in the world, and I was like, I'm not doing anything of any like use, nothing that's gonna like I can look back on at the end of my life and say, you know what, I can be proud of myself for what I did. I wasn't doing that. So it got me in a place where I was like really like angry with myself. I started to hate myself, and
Yeah.
and I wanted to kill myself. So I was in a hotel room in Spain, and I was like, I was either the top floor or the second to top floor, and I
Mm.
was trying to throw myself out the window, and
Wow.
I sat on that ledge for like 4 or 5 hours, just trying to push myself, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't
Okay.
do it. And then I came back to the UK, and I got through that episode, but I was still like not happy in it. And then one day again, I've been doing cocaine this day as well as alcohol, and I was at a after work drinks event, and I was going home on the tube. I was waiting for the tube to come, and I thought, why don't I just throw myself in front of the tube when it comes, innit? That's what I thought
Mm.
to myself. But I didn't decide to do it. But I was considering doing it. The next thing I know, I kind of slipped and fell, and I landed on the train tracks, and the train
No.
was yeah, yeah. And then some lady actually came down and helped me up. And it doesn't sound believable when I think about it, when I talk about it, but as she came down to pick me up, her hair kind of like covered her face in it. So I never actually
Yeah.
saw her face. And
Okay.
she helped me up, and basically I got off onto the platform and onto the tube. And that's when I realized, you know what, something has to change. I'm gonna end up killing myself.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to move back to Slough, moving with my parents for a few years. And Maharaj started doing Girpa. Maharaj got me
Mm.
off the drugs, got me off the cigarettes, off everything. Got me off alcohol, got me off everything. All the bad things I was doing back then. And
How did you get off it though? Just decided to get off it, or was it some
do you
sort
know
of
what?
intervention?
I think that moment when I was on the train tracks and I woke up the next day and I was like, I had a conversation with my brother and I was telling him, look, I'm not in a good place, innit? And he was
Yeah.
like, you can move back in with mum and dad if you want. They'll be happy to have you back. And I'm like,
Mm.
you know what? Let me think about that. And I ended up doing it.
Yeah.
And just getting out of that environment where I'm like having drinks every single night after work. The same people that I was like smoking with, same people I was doing drugs with, and just getting out of that group of people. Not that they were bad people. It's just that
No.
they were doing things that weren't going to help me. They weren't helping me
Yeah.
at all. And I took myself out of that situation, came back, and like it just got to a point where I realized that I'd stopped drinking, I'd stopped um, doing drugs, stopped
Mm,
smoking. I was still using cannabis, but
mm,
I was vaping it, so I wasn't having spliffs. I wasn't putting tobacco in my
mm,
system anymore, and I was starting to grow my dad out a little bit as well.
mm,
And,
mm, mm,
I was just sat in my room, and I was just looking at like this picture of Guru Nanak Sahib Sache Pasha Ji
mm,
on my
mm,
wall. And I realized, like, just looking at that picture, I realized I didn't do any of this. I didn't quit. I didn't quit the alcohol, didn't quit the drugs. I wasn't strong enough to do that. Maharaj dragged me out of it. I realized
mm,
that. And then I had like a little moment where I just said to Maharaj that, look, I get it. It's you. It's you all along, isn't it? So,
mm.
whatever you want from me, that's it. Like I'm yours. Basically, my head is yours. But I made that kind of like internally. I didn't expect to go and shak Amrit. It wasn't like a conversation in my head about
No.
becoming Amritari. It was just like, no, I get it. I understand what's going on. Like you're saving me. Um, and then at that time as well, Basics of Sikhi was, Baji Singh Ji was smashing it with his prajar, and he was like really helping. It like that helped me. His prajar really helped me from where I was. Um, and there was also this guy on SikhNet, Guru Singh Khalsa. I used to watch his videos as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's good in it. He's good. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I found it really helpful for me
yeah.
because he spoke like both of them, Gurukha Singh Khalsa and Bhaji Singh Ji, they spoke in a way that is very relatable. It wasn't like I'm holier than thou. It wasn't like, textbook. I've got this textbook on Sikhi and I'm going to reiterate what's in the text. Yeah, reiterate what's in the textbook. It was like real talk.
Mm,
And things that actually affected me in my life, things that actually made me think about things differently. So. Yeah, I can't thank, especially Bajaj Singh Ji. I did see Gurgas Singh Khalsa a few years ago, and I thanked him, in person. But with Bajaj Singh Ji as well, I was just so happy that, when I came into Sangat, he was still around, and he was like he became my Sangat, and he was like a hero of mine. He became a hero of mine, and at the
yeah.
same time, he also became a friend. Do you know what I mean? And
Mm,
it was I was so grateful that I had that time with him as well. And it was during the Waiguru course. So he was doing the Waiguru course in Southall, and it was like halfway through the course that there was an Amrit Sanchar also in Southall. And at this point as well, I chucked Amrit. Oh, no, sorry. During the Waiguru course, that's when I chucked Amrit. Like halfway through, there was an Amrit Sanchar. I wanted to go to Huzur Sahib, but like my health wasn't still at a point because when I was like suicidal, my health was also like getting worse and worse because I was on those steroids and I was, it just wasn't getting better. And it didn't really, I didn't really think about it, but it just wasn't. I just thought now that I'm on the path and everything, I've quit everything, I'll get
mm,
better. It's fine, isn't it? But it wasn't as easy as that. So I wasn't well enough to go to Punjab or to go to Hajur Sahib because I went there when I was 14. I loved it, and that's where it kind of
mm,
I opened my eyes up to what security is at Huzur Sahib, and I wanted to Shak Amrit there, but Hukam was that I couldn't go to India, so I had to stay in the UK. But there was an Amrit Sanchar in Southall, right in the middle of the Waiguru course, and I Shak Amrit, and I remember it as
mm,
well because I was at a Samagam, and one of the Singhs goes to me, we were talking about Amrit, and he was saying that he's ready to Shak Amrit, and he turns to me and he's like, "What about you, Singh?" What are we talking about? You're not gonna shock Amrit. I actually literally thought that all of the bad things that I've done in my past, I thought that would disqualify me from ever being able to shak Amrit. But, seeing Jagraj Singh Ji and seeing others, who had quit alcohol and quit other, drugs and other things like that, I realized that actually there is still a way for me. And yeah, I ended up being blessed with Amrit, and that was about 10 years ago now. Yeah. So that's how I got to the point of being blessed with Amrit.
yeah. So, how about Sikh history? Did you read up on Sikh history? How did that inspire you? The Shaheeds and stuff like that?
Mm. So
Any?
that was Yeah, bro. Big time. When I was really young, um,
Mm.
my nonnaji, the one who's a Raggi Ustaji, he used to like he would live in West Drayton, which is just up the road from Slough, and my cousins would live there, my mummy and my nanny, and quite often would go there and spend the night, spend go there on a Saturday, stay till the Sunday, and when we did that, my brother and I would stay with my nanaji in my nanaji's bedroom because all my cousins there were girls and they would stay in their rooms. So the three of us would be in my Nanaji's room, and every night, whenever we did that, my Nanaji would tell us stories of the Shaheed Singhs, like Baba Daru Singhji, Baba Mani Singhji, all of these Shaheed Singhs. And it planted a seed in me, and I didn't realize how much it had inspired me until I was a little bit older, because I came to that point in my life around 16, 17 years old where I thought about cutting my gears because
Mm.
all of the things around me growing up, they all had like a lot of them at least started cutting their gears, and I was tempted to do that as well, but
Yeah, yeah.
it was the stories of the Shaheed Singhs, like Baba Daru Singhji, and how when the Mughals tried to cut the gears of Babaji, the blades actually broke. You know what I mean? And they turned up,
Mm.
cutting the scalp, and it's like that's the power of Sikhi, and it's that inspiration of what our Shaheed Singhs had to go through, what they had to endure for us to be able to live as sex. That was like, you know what, I actually owe it to them. Even though I was doing all sorts of silliness, I was drinking drugs, all of that,
Mm. But
sleeping
back of
around.
your mind, you knew when we was younger, bro. The Gurdwara had like all around the Langarhur. They had all like from Guru Nanak Dev Ji being imprisoned, Guru Arjan Dev Ji Shahidi, all that Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, Mati Das, Sati Das, Bhai Taru Singh,
Yeah,
the Mir Manu jails, my Paggo, the British when they were butchering us and stuff. And you know what? When you're young, you just look at it, and then
yeah,
as you get older, you read the captions behind it. So my request is to anyone listening, or well, people that are going to listen to this in the future, make sure your Gurdwara, even if you print out A4s and then laminate them laminate. So you buy a printer, 40, 50 quid, you got the ink with it, you buy
yeah,
them laminating pouches, get the pictures online, boom, 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 and make sure the Langarhul's got a little, like, even if it's like 50 pictures or 30 pictures. So when they're kids, and just write on top of it, because this is what I used to do when I was in East London, we had an academy. So
yeah.
I used to write our family tree, you know?
Wow. Yeah,
So put our family tree on it. Then I used to put all the pictures from Guru Nanak Dev Ji, all the hardship pictures of Singhs getting in Delhi when they were getting executed by the Mughal regime. Then you had the two Singhs, Shabazz Singh, Shabazz Singh, when the father and son were fighting to jump on the Chakri. That's
yeah,
inspirational, yeah.
yeah,
And people might not know when the Singhs were lined up for death row. I call it a Singh row. When they were lined up on the Singh row, they used to argue who's going in the queue first to
yeah,
get beheaded first for Sikhi. They used to push in line. We push in line for amusement rides or school dinners. You know what I'm saying? If there's a guillotine there, we're not pushing in line, bro. I said, I'm gonna live as long as possible. You know what I mean?
yeah, man.
So this is our history, and I urge everybody to make sure your Guru card. This is going to cost you 100 quid max. Yeah, this is two printers or printer, quality paper, and laminate, and the committee should allow it. And you don't need to do the modern Guri, modern Shaheeds with real. You get the animation pictures, and the kids need to see the our Shaheeds there. So when
Yeah,
every time they go Langarhu, that is doing talks without talking because the picture says 1,000 words. It's
yeah,
brainwashing. It's true. We should brainwash them Sikhi because if we don't brainwash them to Sikhi, they're going to get brainwashed for society and they're going to go down the paths of Bard you were saying, which is drugs, depression, heartbreak from relationships, and eventually suicide. We have a big suicide problem in our community, more than we know because no one plus their suicidal thoughts. But every now and again, you get a Singh that does suicide, and it's been happening consecutively for years. But it
mm,
just goes one Singh dies, then everyone wakes up and say we need to do something about mental health in our community and suicide. Then after 2 weeks, job karke badge on there. It's like when you go to a funeral, you think about death, then you think I'm gonna die soon. For that week, you'll boost your Sikhi, you'll do an extra Naam Simran, and after, when the memory of the funeral fades away, back to normality.
yeah,
You know,
man.
And that hundi
Yeah,
hai, innit?
it is.
It
It is.
happens.
But this is the thing as well. It's like for when you're in that place, when you're really at rock bottom, the only thing that can save you is Maharaj. There's nothing
Maharaj.
else. You know, you can look everywhere else. You can look for answers. This is one thing I realized when I was coming onto the path of Sikhi. I'd been looking for answers everywhere else in all the Gaudiya textbooks, all these Gaudiya philosophers, or through the media, what the media is telling you, and all of this kind of stuff. And then when I started learning about Sikhi, like all of the answers were there. Everything that I was looking for was there. And to add to what you're saying, absolutely do print out those posters, put them in your Guru card as well. But
Yeah,
also talk to your children, tell them about the stories of
yeah.
the
Tell
Shahid.
them about the Saki, yeah.
Yeah, like all of them, like Jar Sahib's out there, like all of the Shaheed Singhs that you mentioned as well, like everyone, like just part of it's part of our DNA, it's part of who we are. And we're depriving our children from that if we don't do that. Do you know what I mean? Like we're
Yeah,
limiting how much they can grow if we don't tell them who they really are and what they're really from. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
because it's gene expression, it's in our genetics, you know.
Yeah.
But we need to wake them genetics up, Always, sometimes you're just getting contaminated by the current trends.
Mm.
And the current trends ain't fantastic, and they're getting worse and worse. The
Yeah.
beauty standards, the social media influence, the influencers. There's a lot of guns out there, bro. A lot of guns. I talk about some of the guns in my channel back in the
Yeah.
year, but I can only talk so much. There's
Yeah.
just too much. If I start talking about the real gun, the real reality, I'll be cancelled by our community because
Yeah.
we're not ready for it yet, bro.
Yeah.
But there's a
100%.
lot out there. There's a lot out there. We have to filter it down. You know what I mean? And I filter it down not as much as others, but
Mm.
it's still too raw for people. So imagine if I told the harsh realities of what's going on out there. It's just too much, bro.
It is too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
People don't
So
people don't want to listen to it. They don't.
no,
As soon as you start talking about that kind of stuff, it's like you're seen as being like an extremist, or like back in the day it used to be conspiracy theorist, and it's like, nah,
yeah,
bro, just look at what's going on in the world. Just look, just pay attention.
yeah.
The only difference between
It's
someone
culture.
who,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah, the only difference from you and I, people who can see what's going on in the world, is just that we pay attention. You know what I mean? We're actually looking at, okay, why is this um advert like this? Why is this politician saying this? Why is this show have these kind of characters in this kind of way? Like, what is the point? Like,
Yeah.
what is the
There's
purpose of
agendas.
this?
There's
Yeah,
agendas.
yeah,
There's agendas. It's all comes down to Maya. It all comes down
yeah,
to the Panchor Maya.
mm,
Whatever dark societies or cultures or groups or fetishes or whatever people are doing, it is
yeah,
down to the Panchor. Everyone has Panchor to extent. Some people have more than others. Some people do bloody child sacrifice for the Panchor.
yeah,
Some
yeah,
people will just watch a porn video, or some people will just
yeah,
go to a club, or some people will do rapes. Some people do some mad stuff out there. But it's
yeah,
all comes down to Panchor and Maya.
yeah,
If we're saved from being too much into Panchor or Pichli Kamai Hundiya,
mm,
that everyone's born with a base level Kamai from their Pichli Janam.
you're
So
right.
that's why you'll get some children at 8 years old and they're doing a lot of Simran, a lot of Naam Simran. They're sitting there joking market for 2 hours. You think, bro, I'm an adult, I can't do that. And why ain't other kids doing that? It's the
Yeah,
balance from Pichli Kamai. You have some children that about 12 years old, they'll come out with such gems,
yeah,
like such sensible galla, which will
yeah,
put adult to shame. Or Pichli
absolutely.
Kamai Hundiya. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? You
yeah,
have some children that are not interested in Sikhi at all. And we Pichli Kamai, so you've got to try to build them up. The thing is, when we're born in a Sikhi family,
mm,
ਸਾਡੇ ਵੱਡ ਭਾਗ ਚੰਗੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ. First,
yeah,
we got human life. Second, we're in the house of Guru Nanak Dev Ji
mhm,
Maharaj. Then
yeah,
we're in the house of Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, the Shabad Guru. So
yeah,
we are lucky. Now it turns into the game of snakes and ladders. Are we moving up the ladder or are we going down the snakes? Sometimes we will move up the ladder, then a snake comes, which up a
mm,
dole janda. In Punjabi, they call dole janda banda.
mm,
You have a bad patch. It's a slippery slope. You watch one porn video, then for a couple of days you might watch a bit more, then you think, I'm going to have a break, and you rebuild your spirituality. Then something
mm,
else will get you down. Your
yeah.
mum might get ill, or someone might die, then attachment gets you, or someone cuts you up in the car and you think, beep, beep. You know what I mean? I've seen it. Singhs, yeah, bruv, they won't. Guru Granth Sahib is getting burnt, they won't type nothing. But if someone just cuts them up, then they're out to do Shahidi, bruv. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
Because of the
mm,
crowd. But the Maharaj that same anger is not there. But when it comes to their precious car, if someone scratched it by mistake or whatever, the Qurban are coming out. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
But
that is
it's
growth.
that's actual growth. But
Yeah.
when someone's doing Biadbi of Maharaj and you're responding to that, that's not growth. That's like
No, beat us on that.
stress.
Beat
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So for the English speakers, if we say growth, that's anger.
Mm.
And if we say beat us, is more might than
Yeah.
anger. It's more like a just. So you got violence and then you got resistance.
Yeah.
So violence is when you violate someone physically, and resistance is when it's justified.
Yeah.
So these terms are very important to understand, because otherwise Gurbani does talk against violence. So when you're reading the angs against violence, you know, I mean, I think it's called Hinsa, or I can't remember properly, but
Mm.
there's Punjabi deep meanings to it. You think, oh, if Maharaj said no violence, then why did Guru Gobind Singh Ji fight? So in the analogy in our brain's got to be, not every physical action is a violent. You're not violating everybody, you know.
Yeah.
If someone's coming to kidnap you and you chop them up, you're not violating them. You're resisting them.
Yeah.
So
100%.
these are important concepts for the youth to understand, because some pachariks, they can take a quote of Gurbani and just totally pacify you,
Yeah.
and it does happen a lot.
Yeah.
We are not. If you want to go the pacifist way, it's up to you. But when you've got the Qurban on you and you Khande Bataka Amrit, you don't just stand for yourself, you stand for others. You know, that's why the Qurban is there. If Maharaj wanted you to be a pacifist faith where anything goes, everything is hukam, you just sit there and get raped, you just sit there and get beheaded, then the Qurban wouldn't be a kakar.
Mm.
It's not there to chop potatoes, it's not there for Qur'an Prashad, it's not there to look good, it's there, it's a weapon. It's
Yeah.
there. In our history, it was given to us. Everything that was given to us at the Amr Sanchar, the Kashera, yeah, people say last in more. The main thing is helps you move about. It's
Mm.
battle. The Kare, which people say, oh, God is one, God is round.
Mhm.
These are added things, yeah. I mean, they can have double meanings, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Kashera, you tie up, but the main thing was for martial race.
Yeah.
The Ganga was to keep your hair combed, yeah. People say it's to remind you of God. It's not just to keep your hair untangled. And the Gada is there just to block, throw if you have to.
Mm.
You know, everything, bro, is all like this is warrior, man. Like it's
Yeah.
lion, you know. When there's
I mean,
things coming at you, red eyes, beat us,
mhm.
and you know what I mean. There's the argument in it that Geski or whatever, but brother, you can't really be a single without any of them anyway.
Yeah.
So we pick on these little arguments and we form cliques and Ragamala cliques and these cliques and that cliques.
Mhm.
End of the day, it's trivial matters. Like really, there's bigger things to be working on, and we're gonna go into that. Before we go into all the like meaty peedy, I just want to get the spirituality side. I've got two more questions about spirituality. Then
Mhm.
we'll go into the nitty gritty, political side and
Yeah.
current issues in the UK and Khalsa and all that.
Yeah.
So we've done your childhood, we've done how you got to Sikhi, we've done how you reached a place where you was actually suicidal for the Sangat that I've just joined. Maharaj, beyond Kirpa, holy into Sikhi, holy. Now, Sikhi is not just about Amrit and putting on the Qurban and looking at our Shaheeds. The main part of Sikhi is to win this game and get to a Garpuruk and merge. The
Mm.
main battle is the battle of the mind, a battle against the bunch jaw. So this is where spirituality comes into it, and everyone has their own techniques and got their own clicks on spirituality. You talk to the AKJs, you talk to the Nahangs, you talk to different Babbe in the Nahangs, you talk to different Jathedar in AKJ, you talk to Ksar, you talk to Nanak Sar, you talk to a missionary. The interpretations of the Bani, the interpretations of Sikhi are vast,
Yeah.
unfortunately. We have got one guru, one mission, one goal, but Sikhi, it's not that simple, it's complex. I'll talk to you, you'll say, Meet Shakko. I'll talk to the Gyan in the Godara, Na Meet Shakko. I'll talk to a next man, Fiend Kao Pang Pio, but Daru Ratani Pio. I'll talk to a next Taksali Singh and say no. So we want to know, the Sangat want to know, I want to know what is kind of what, before we even go into it, your spiritual journey.
Mhm.
Let's go deep into spirituality. What's for you? What's Naam for you? What's the relationship with the Guru? how have you transferred Sikhi into your behavior? So let's go into your spirituality concepts and really go to town on your spiritual journey and your spiritual beliefs
Yeah.
and how you.
So I guess it would have been just a few months before I like had problems with my health.
Mm,
Obviously, I'd been raised with Rag Kirtan. I used to learn Rag Kirtan, and I was dedicated to that. But despite that, I wouldn't say I was religious at the time. But then I was like obviously drinking and doing drugs and stuff. And one day my mum come to me in my room, and she brought this little gudka sahib, which was like um Japji Sahib, Rehra Sahib, and Kirtan Sohila. And you had like the English Romanized version on one side, and then
yeah.
on the other side you had like an English translation, but that translation was like in poetry, so it wasn't like an exact translation. It was just more like,
Okay.
yeah. And so basically, my mom said to me, I don't know how much she knew about what I'd been going through at the time, but she was like, basically, it wouldn't hurt just to like read a bit of Bart every once in a while. And I was like, all right, safe. And I just left it on the desk, and it stayed there for a few months. And then one day, I just thought, just for no reason, just no real apparent reason, I picked it up and I started reading. I just read the first bunch bodies of Japji Sahib, and
Wow.
didn't think about anything after that. Just put it back and then carried on with the rest of my day. And that
Mm,
night when I went to bed, I think I've spoken about this in one of the videos. That
okay.
night when I went to bed, I actually felt something different. I felt like a bit of peace in a peace, and I hadn't felt like that like for a long, long time. And I was like, where is this coming from? And I realized it was those bunch bodies of Japji Sahib that I read
Wow.
earlier today.
That's
And then
mad.
every day after that, I started reading those bunch bodies of Japji Sahib, no matter what. Even if I was going out clubbing that same night and I hadn't done it, I'd be literally in a club, and I'd be like, I need to just take 5 minutes out. I'll
Yeah.
go and I'll do my bunch bodies of Japji Sahib. Obviously, it wasn't that all of the time, but even in those situations, I would do that.
Yeah.
I would make sure I'd never miss that. And that would be the number one thing is like your nickname, whatever it is that your nickname is, make sure you do it every day. Do you know what I mean? Like that has to be the priority, is that you make sure you do your nickname every day. And I think that's what saved me, was those bunch bodies of Japji Sahib, and then it became what my nickname is now, you know, Holy Holy, with all of those little, like, as I would add another Barney and then add another Barney, it would just be me getting stronger and stronger and stronger in my Sikhi. And I think, like, when you come into Sikhi in the first place, you're full of this, like, this enthusiasm, and this love. You've got all this love in your heart for, and you meet all of these new people, and you think they must have gone through what I've been through as well. We're all in this together, and you come with this love, and people respond to that at the beginning, and then over time you start realizing, what, people are just human, innit? And
Mm,
I remember when I was younger, I didn't really vibe with the Amritaris that I knew. I didn't know many of them, but the ones that I did know, like, they would hold programs and stuff, and then like you'd go to their house for the program, like be like distant cousins or whatever. You go to their house for the program, and then you'd just be sat there where all of the other kids would be like playing somewhere else, but you weren't invited because you weren't part of that little clique. Do you know what I mean? Like, you would have to
mm,
sit there. Ironically, you'd be there sitting listening to the geek and listening to the Shabad, and they'd be out playing, but they're supposed to be the religious ones, and you're supposed to be like the wastemen or whatever, innit? But you'd be literally the one sitting next to Maharaj. They'd be out in the garden or upstairs or whatever playing, because they weren't inclusive, and I never forgot that. And when I came into like Sikhi, well, until I came into Sikhi, and I forgot that. I started thinking, yeah, you know what, I forgot all of my past experiences and all the kind of like you know judgmental like behavior that I saw from Amritaris, and I just thought, you know what, it's not that. It's something beautiful. Sikhi is something beautiful. These are beautiful people, and I put everyone on a pedestal. I wanted to be friends with everyone. I went to all of these Sikh organizations, and I started doing seva with everyone, and
mm.
I didn't really protect myself. That's one thing I learned was like I just gave myself to everyone. Anyone wanted anything from me, I'd give it. Do you know what I mean? And it cost me in the end. You know. Um,
Mm.
But yeah, what I would still say though is nickname is, the one thing, the Barney, the nickname, whatever it is that you do, especially when you're doing it every day, Ardas, um, Kirtan, where however it is, Nam Japan, however you jap Nam, for me, most of the time it's reciting Gurbani, but I do still do some Rag Kirtan as well, some Simran, and just staying in certain Sangat as well, is can be really beneficial for you, you know. So I think it's all of those things, like surrounding yourself with with people, not even just people, but the Shabad. Do you know what I mean? Like people who are
Mm.
like obsessed with the Shabad, and
That's Saad
you,
Sangat, isn't it? That is a Saad
yeah,
Sangat.
yeah, huh? And you say about like the different Jatabandis and everything, what I found, I've been really fortunate that I've met quite a few Mahapurush, like, at least, 4 or 5 Mahapurush properly, sat down and, had proper conversations with them. And
Mm.
they all seem very similar to me. There's a lot more that, from my perspective, that Mahapurush have in common with each other than there is that divides them. It's all about Naam. It's all about, keep your head, keep your Maryada, jap Naam. And, little things like what you eat or whatever, they're minor in comparison to, and everyone's different. Everyone's got different hukams as well. Like, I know,
Mm.
for instance, Baba Avtar Singh Ji even has said, like, certain things shouldn't shak dig, for instance, but,
Yeah.
you know, Babaji does, you know what I mean? Like, and other things do, and it's calm. Like it's for some people, it's not for others. Same with Jatka. For some people, it's not for others. It's like you do whatever is right for you. Do you know what I mean? Like whatever
Yeah.
your sons and mothers that who you man, and whatever your sangat, whatever your rehtes and your dal or whatever in your jatha, then just do you. You do you. Do you know what I mean? Don't mind next man doing what he's doing. Do what you're supposed to do. But the only thing I would say is like, don't start telling people you can go and do this. You can go drink alcohol. You can go have, KFC. Or whatever. Don't tell people you can start doing that. If you want to do it, that's your business. Do you know what I mean? But don't tell other people that they can do that. And I think that's the one thing that I do see that you know has to be addressed and has to be stopped. But you know, live and let live. As far as I'm concerned, like as long as you're not harming me, then do what you're doing. I mean, it doesn't really bother me, and I'm gonna judge like the distance that I keep from everyone
Mm.
based on that, basically, like if I know that someone's drinking alcohol, someone's keeping company with someone who's like quite sly or whatever, then I'm just going to keep a distance from them. That's all it is. It's not like I've got any hate for them. Not like
Mm.
like, I'm going to condemn them or I'm going to judge them or anything like that. It's just that, all right, cool, you do your thing. I'm just going to be over here doing my thing. That's all it is. Do you know what I mean?
Fair play. So look, so I think that's enough. I've got no more questions about the spirituality stuff.
Right.
Obviously, I would just add on Siddhu Granth Sahib Ji Shabad Guru, number one thing.
100%.
If you find someone that you think is a Mahapurush, my advice is always yes, there's Mahapurush out there. They become one with the Guru, but just pinch your soul. Just don't be a blind sheep.
Yeah.
Just think if your intuition telling you something that ain't right, then check it with Gurbani.
Yeah.
Because what I notice when you be a blind sheep, then it's not good as well.
Yeah.
Because we're until we don't become onto Jami, we don't know really who proper Mahapurush is or not. We
Yeah.
can get inclined, or we can think this is fantastic guitar, fantastic guy. Everyone else is told he's a Mahapurush, but it doesn't mean, oh Rabbi John then until our Dasam Dwar doesn't open and we
Mm.
are
Yeah.
human. Without the Dasam Dwar, we are limited as well. We can get a lot of stuff wrong. You might think my mate's good and that mate ends up touching your kid up, you know what I mean? So it's just one of them ones, isn't it?
But it is the case that if you keep your nickname, if you keep your Maryada, you keep everything
Yeah.
like going as it's supposed to be, then sooner or later you will see what you're supposed to see, what Maharaj wants you to see. Do you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
Doesn't do it's hard to open, but it's not that hard as well because it's just consistency.
yeah,
And then
that's
with the
exactly that.
consistency,
Yeah,
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 with consistency, kirpa comes.
yeah,
It's like now, if I wanted to have big muscles and this and that, if I go gym one day a week,
mm,
then I miss a few months, then I go again, then I say, I ain't getting big, guys. This gym shit is bullshit. I train, man. I train all the time. I train once a week. I miss a few months, but I'm still training. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
You
And
gotta
also,
do it. Yeah.
if you go to the gym, like you smash it like 7 days a week for like 3 weeks, and it's like, okay, how come I'm not hench now? You know what I mean? It's like it's not gonna
It
happen
takes
overnight.
time. You gotta build it.
Yeah,
Bhakti's there like that. You build it up. You do your arm simran, you build it up, but then you have a crash. You know, when the punch will get you, you know, you might have a week off or a bad day, or it's
yeah,
a snakes and ladders thing, bro. It's this.
yeah.
If this battle was easy, it would all be Mahapush, wouldn't it be?
That's it.
Mahapush shouldn't be called Mahapush. You know what I mean? You know, it's like when we say Mahapush, man, wow, you actually done it. You actually beat the game.
Yeah,
Wow, rated, man. I've been trying to quit porn for 10 years, mate. I say this is the last time every time. Do you know what I mean? So what I'm saying is like whoever beats the battle of the mind is wow, you
yeah,
know. And we
yeah,
talk about wow is like the Guru Mantra is wow, Waheguru, Waheguru.
yeah,
You repeat this Guru Mantra, you become Waheguru. You know, it starts off with a word, it turns into a trance, it turns into spiritual experiences. You close your eyes, stuff starts happening, the punch jaw calm down, the Maya calm down, you start getting grounded, you start aligning with the universal truth, and eventually you conserve all your energy, you know, your sexual energy, these all sorts of energies, all sorts of chakras and stuff. It's all in the Barney. I'm not making none of this
yeah,
shit
yeah,
up.
100%
Yeah,
is, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So all the everything, the Nad Shabbat, the Shakti, the Kundalini rises up, the Dasam Dwars opens with Guru's grace, because there's yogis who can open the Dasam Dwar without the Guru's grace, but it's mechanical. This is written in the Barney as well, that mechanically you can trick your chakras, you can align this and that, but you won't see the jot. You
Yeah,
can when you mechanically open the dasam dwar, it's still black. But
yeah,
when the guru does it, and then you see the jot, when you say guru, yeah, the ru is wahe guru. Then you see the ru, and then you're connected. You're jivan mukt, you're sant, you're brahm gyani. You actually become the Shabbat,
yeah.
and there's no difference between you and Maharaj. It's just a physical body, and just got to leave that eventually, just a shell. So
And Maharaj tells us in Sukhmani Sahib as well, they you know, talk about Brahmgyani, they talk about sun,
yeah, yeah,
what they
we
are.
we can become that, because you
Yeah,
know the
it's
Baba
called,
Deep Singhs. How did they become Baba Deep Singh? Was through the Bani, the same Bani that we have now.
yeah,
We have what made Baba Deep Singh, Pai Taru Singh, My Pago was the Shabad.
yeah,
We have access to the same Shabad.
mhm,
But you know what it is? Baba Deep Singh wrote 4 beaters by hand. We haven't even read Maharaj once, a lot of us, yeah? They wrote 4 beaters by hand.
yeah,
Their Nitanam was strong, their good mantra jap was strong.
yeah,
We are in the age of technology, bro. Everything's on our phones, and
yeah,
sometimes, you know, yeah, it's good. We want Uber cab, we want Uber Eats, we want this, but also there's a lot of toxic stuff on here as well, innit?
yeah. No, for
And you
sure.
know, a lot of marketing, you know, the way, you know, for us men, the way women dress, the way we
Yeah,
adverts or social media, you
mm,
get enticed really quick, and that keeps us in the trap, in the net of Maya. And Maya's sneaky serpent,
mm,
snaky, bruv. It
yeah.
gets you, man. It gets you when you don't expect it. You know, you're sitting there and urges come or whatever happens. Maya's not an easy obstacle to beat,
No,
man. It's
no.
janam like jande, but obviously we got to keep trying, innit?
And ask Maharaj, innit? Do binti to Maharaj, like
Yeah.
do ask to Maharaj and be like, look, you know what's in my heart. You know, I don't want to live my life in this way. You know what I want, so just take me there, innit? And it's not gonna happen overnight, but
Nah.
you keep doing your nickname, keep praising Maharaj, keep loving Maharaj, and keep focusing on doing what you're supposed to be doing. And Maharaj sorts it all out. Maharaj does,
Yeah.
they will, they do, they always sort it all out in the end. It's just like we expect results straight away. We don't have
Yeah.
patience, but we have to have patience, and we have to just keep. That's the test of our faith. How long we
Yeah.
can stay patient. We can always keep praising Maharaj even when things around us don't seem to be changing, and then sooner or later everything will change. Do you know what I mean?
Sage, innit? Cause like a sage part,
Yeah.
sage.
Yeah.
Everything come. Patience is a virtue. That's in the Gurbani as well.
There's someone's asked a question here, and I don't
Yeah.
think they're online at the moment, but still, like, can we change someone who is sly or not good company, or do we move away and not help at all? And I think that's a really important question because for me personally, like Maharaj says, like when you take like when you're blessed with Amrit, when you start walking this path and you jump Nam, then you save your generations as well. You save your family as well, right? But you don't save them by convincing them. You don't sit down and try to change their mind. Like you change them because you're changing yourself. But the only ones that we can change in this world is ourselves. So when
Yeah.
we change ourselves, the world changes with us. Do you know what I mean? Our the people around us start changing as well. You know, it's a lot more effective if we just focus on ourselves. If we want people to like the people around us to wake up, basically, you know, we change ourselves. Doesn't work if you're trying to change other people. It just doesn't work. You have to change yourself. So that's why I just keep my distance from people. If I know that they're going to be like they're going to bring something into my life that I don't want, then I just keep my distance from them. But you know, I don't um I don't have any hate for them. I just keep my distance and I work on myself. Work on myself. The best thing I can do for anyone is work on myself. You know, I really do follow that. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, the next question, bro. What do you think about the masculinity and feminine balance in the world? This is a deep question, isn't it?
Yeah, bro. That's like that's what's going on in the world. That's the big problem right now. You
Yeah,
know,
it is. Yeah. I
it's
wanted
like
your view on it, innit? What you think?
yeah, bro. Men aren't men anymore. You know, like
Mm.
men and it's not even their fault. It's like the media, society is conditioning you. It's like I remember when I was working as a journalist in London. I remember reading this article, and it was about how women prefer beta males. And I'm like, I
Uh,
didn't even know what beta male was at the time. And I was like, I was watching it, and it's like, oh yeah, they prefer men who are like in tune with their emotions and this, that, and the other, and who don't have to like be dominant and this, that. And I'm like, all right. And it kind of brainwashed me at the time. I was like in my 20s, and I was like, you know, I started thinking that way. And
yeah, yeah.
you know, I would start putting like women on a pedestal as well, and it was like, and I'm not all the other way. I'm not like one of these alpha male kind of influencers either. It's like
Toxic,
you
yeah,
got yeah,
toxic.
you got to find the balance. You got to find this, you know, Serge Avasta, you know, where you are you take your responsibility as a man seriously. You know, it's
Yeah.
like you have that responsibility to protect everybody who looks to you for protection. So you have to be worthy of that. You got to train yourself up, you know, mentally as well as physically, you know,
Mm,
to be able to protect anybody, including yourself. You know, you you're not gonna get sympathy in the world. No one's gonna feel sorry for you, and even if they do, mm, who cares? They're not gonna, you know, you're on your own in this world. You come in on your own and you leave on your own. Do you know what I mean? And it's like when you start accepting that, when you start realizing that, hold on, that you're here to be a warrior. That's the purpose of a man. You have to be a warrior. You can't, you know, you're not gonna be happy. You're not gonna find peace unless you're a warrior. You know, you turn yourself into a warrior. You know, it's like it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, right?
mm,
But you have to be that warrior in the garden, and that filters through in every little thing that you do, not just you know in this fantasy world about running onto a battlefield with a a dig in your hand. Not just that, but just like I'm for instance, right? I'm in Barna, and
mm,
Mara beyond Kid Island with some really good sangat that I've had over the years. You know, they've helped me stay in Barna, and I'll
mm,
be
mm,
walking down the street and the vast majority, like I do get comments, I get quite a lot of comments, but the vast majority of them are positive. You know, it might be like an old lady just saying, "Oh, you look so beautiful." You know, it's like,
mm,
yeah, great. But then sometimes I'll get some sarky comments. I'll get some people who are just coming up to me, just being disrespectful about how I look, and
mm,
I got to stand up to them. Do you know what I mean? Like I got
mm,
to give as good as I get without losing myself, without losing my integrity, without lowering my standards of my behavior. But still, you got to give back. You know, you got to tell them, don't think you can come up to me and start talking like that to me, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like you got to be
mm,
real with them, and that takes courage. That takes the person that can do that and that can you know in every situation is aware that you have a responsibility as a man. You know, you have to stand up for yourself. You can't allow yourself to be disrespected. Like I was thinking earlier today, like these days I'm feeling really peaceful. I'm feeling so peaceful,
wicked.
and I'm like, I've got this peace in me, and I'm like, where is that coming from? And it's a combination of things, but one thing that is really important is that the people that I have, I don't have a lot of people in my life, but the people that I have in my life show me respect. Do you know what I mean? Like the respect is
Yes.
there, and respect is a prerequisite for peace. If you want to be in a peaceful life, you ain't going to be peaceful if you know, the people around you don't respect you. You know, so,
Yeah.
and
Going back to the feminine, masculine, a lot
mm,
of today's women are masculine in a way,
yeah,
like the way they talk to you, the attitude, the create toxic households, you know. I was in a toxic marriage and it,
mm,
the, it was a slippery slope. It started from just disrespecting me and talking, like swearing and this and that. And it was just like, once that respect goes,
yeah,
the
Hey,
relationship's done. It's done, bruv. Once certain limits and barriers are crossed and it doesn't get redeemed. So a lot
yeah,
of women want to dominate, they want to simp, but they're hardwired to have an alpha male that can
yeah,
protect them because of cavemans and stuff like that to go
yeah,
and hunt. So it's a mishmash, bro, and that's why marriages. That's why we're seeing a lot of divorces. Even when I'm dying circles, I'm hearing a lot of divorces, bro, and it's not good. It's the balance ain't right. The whole UK system is raising masculine women
yeah,
and kind of emasculated men as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
So it's just like them balance, the yin and yang is not there. And
yeah.
that's why marriage ain't surviving. Did you get married, bro? Did you get married and have kids and all that, bro?
Um, so I really keep gobed about
Okay.
relationships. Yeah, I
Yeah.
I really keep gobed because, like, firstly, it's in one of the Headname that
Yeah.
four things that you keep to yourself, and one of them is like your relationships. And
Yeah.
I've had issues in the past where people who've had problems with me have tried to, you know, attack.
Sabotage.
Yeah, sabotage, and also like attack, you know, the girl that I was seeing at that time as well. That's happened, in my life. You know what I mean? So um, after that, I was just like, you know what? Whenever I do settle down, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna keep it to myself, bro. You know what I mean? So I just keep everything to myself. I
Yeah.
don't really talk about my own personal experiences, but I will talk about like
Yeah.
general trends that I see because like what I do see is the same way that us men have been conditioned to accept this emasculation as like
Yeah.
the better way of being. Women have had the opposite done to them. Like
Yeah.
if a woman says that she wants to be a housewife, that she just wants to stay at home and raise her kids, what I mean? That's seen as like, unambitious. That's seen as like, what's wrong with you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they've been fed this lie that, they have to compete with men and that they have to be men and that men and women are the same. Now, being equal isn't the same as being the same, right? And
No, true.
so a lot of women, are chasing that CEO status, that, boss kind of status where they're making money and they're like they don't need a man, this, that, and the other. And it's like, all right, cool, but every woman that I know that's a mother that is like happy and stable and settled, if you ask her what is the greatest achievement that she's ever done in her life, no matter what else she's done, she's always going to say it's her children. Every mother will always, who's stable, was always going to say like, my children are my greatest achievement. The greatest thing that I've ever done in the world is have these children. And it's like, this is something that's being played down. That's like, that's not important. What's important is that you have a Mercedes or you have a Bentley or you've got a big house and you can, go to a holiday and spend as much as you want on a five-star hotel and, getting all the drinks in at the bars and all this kind of stuff. That's the lifestyle to go for. Actually having children and raising them and being present in their life rather than, dropping them off at a babysitter. You know, the whole, like, women have been brainwashed in
Yeah.
one way, and then men have been brainwashed in another way. And it's hard to even talk about this because like you become a villain just by saying this, you
Yeah. You
know?
get cancelled. You get cancelled 100%.
Yeah, and it's like I'm just saying what I've seen, and in Gurbani as well. I remember seeing a few weeks ago. I think it was Gemi Singh, Mark. I was talking about how like for a woman, liberation comes through her husband. Like that's an interpretation of Barney, and it's one that I kind of understand why, because in Christianity it's the same thing. Like I watch some of the YouTube content from like Christian pastors as well, and other religions, Sufis, Hindus, everyone, even Muslims as well. I watch a spectrum of views, and I've noticed this about a lot of them. But I see one in particular, this Christian preacher that I watch sometimes, and he's funny, he's jokes, but he's talking about this order, and it's the same in Sikhi as well. You've got the Guru, you've got God, then you've got man, and the man is like the soul bride to the Guru, and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
man has to be subservient to the Guru. In the same way, that same relationship, as long as you've got a man that's worth being subservient to, because if that man is subservient to the Guru and he's keeping his red and he's doing everything he's supposed to do and he's got his head screwed on straight, then that man who's trying to become at one with Maharaj, that can be like, that could be, that is a man that a woman wants to submit to, because like you say, the caveman, genetics, it's in our DNA. They want, deep down, maybe a lot of people don't know, maybe they've forgotten it because of how we've been brainwashed, but deep down a woman wants a man that she can submit to, that she can say, okay, look, you're going to take charge, you're going to lead, in the same way that man says to Maharaj, Singh says to Maharaj, you're going to lead, I'll give it all to you, I'll hand it all over to you. A woman wants to be able to say that to a man, that look, you lead, I don't want to be looking after myself. I want you to look after me. In the same way that a man says to Maharaj, I want you to look after me. So like in Christianity, they've got this kind of like hierarchy. You've got God, man, woman, and children. So the children report to the wife reports to the man, and the man reports to God. That's the kind of like hierarchy. And in Sikhi, it's not dissimilar to that either. It's like, a healthy traditional household looks like that.
yeah,
A
yeah.
strong
The
man
dynamics are
is a
like
leader.
that. Yeah, the man takes care of the logical and the breadwinning. The
Yeah,
woman takes care of the man's emotional needs and the children's emotional needs.
yeah,
The women are the king of emotions. We cannot give the children love like a woman can.
yeah,
We can teach them hunting. We can teach them firing arrows, firing guns. We can say, kid up what to do this. We can be a bit more disciplined. But when a mom hugs a child, the child's been in the woman, the child's come out the woman, breastfed
mm,
from the woman. There's a bond that we just
yeah,
don't have. Mom, we love our kids the same, but a woman's place and a man's place, they're both needed for a nuclear family. When one is missing out of the picture, when one energy is missing,
yeah,
then it's chaos, bro. That's why I don't. Me personally, I don't agree with two gays raising a child, adopting a child, or two lesbians adopting a child. The way the world's going, I like the nuclear family, straight normality. But the thing is, bro, when you say these sort of things and you say normal, when
mm,
you're trying to be normal, which is like how it should be,
yeah.
you are seen as a villain, bro.
Bro, when I was like in my 20s, I was working in central London in Soho, right? I was working in media.
Yeah,
This was the world I was living in. That this was the normal. Like, I'm not gay. I've never been gay or anything, but I've been to gay
yeah,
bars before. I've been to a gay bar before, and I was just like, because I'm a journalist, I wanted to know like what are these places even like, and it was
yeah,
just
100%.
normal. It was just normal that people would just be like, oh yeah, we're going to a gay bar tonight because we're in Soho. We work in Soho, and it's just like, and I'm not judgmental. I don't care what people do. Do you know what I mean? But I've learned that that way of life is not healthy. Do you know what I mean? It's not how, like, if you look at our bodies, how we're designed to be. It's not, a man isn't designed to be with another man. It's not, the parts don't fit. Do you know what I mean? It's not, we're not designed that way. And I believe, like, I don't even believe, I know Maharaj is Antarjami. Maharaj knows everything, and Maharaj creates us with a purpose. You know what I mean? Like, we are designed this way for a reason, and that reason, for in terms of reproduction, our reproductive systems are the way they are because of procreation. And a man is generally stronger than a woman because a man is supposed to protect a woman. And it's like, these are things that we should be paying attention to. Like, how has Maharaj made us? How has Maharaj created us? Are we in line with that, or are we going against that? And and I think a lot of us, we don't realize it. We don't realize how against Maharaj we're going, how against like the divine wisdom that shapes us. Yeah, we're just ignoring it, you know?
Yeah, the divine laws, isn't it?
Yeah,
The divine design.
exactly that. Yeah.
Each organ's made for specific purposes,
But I'll
And
say it again, bro. Like, I don't judge anybody. I don't hold hate in my heart for anyone. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
Like, I know how easy it is, especially in this day and age, how easy it is for like people to like go through trauma. Like it could be a case that okay, you really like a girl, and then she turns around to you and says, uh, "You're ugly" or whatever, and that could hurt you
Yeah.
so much that you know like even your hormones like are disrupted as a result of that trauma. That could be literally traumatic for someone. That it could literally turn them. Do you know what I mean? Like people people are a lot more fragile than we realize. You know, and especially in this world that enables that. That doesn't say to you, okay, look, get over it, man. You know, man up. They say, no, no, you might be on, you know, the LGBT spectrum somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wicked. Nah. Next question will be, I remember you saying you're banned from India, bro. What happened there? Huh? I remember something like that
Yeah.
back in the day.
So obviously, when I wanted to Shaq Amrit, I wasn't well enough to get to Punjab. I wasn't well enough to get to India at all.
Mm.
But then, like, I had oh, I actually completely skipped this part of my life as well. But actually, I'd shucked Amrit, and I've been Amritdari for about 2 years, but my health wasn't getting better. And I basically went into hospital to have this operation. It was the same operation as what I had when I was 18. And I was expecting them to just basically open me up, close me, be in hospital for one night. Might take a few weeks of recovery, but I'd get back to normal. And then basically there was huge like mistakes that were made, and I ended up having 5 operations, and I was in hospital for 3 months. And during that time, they put like a stoma bag, like a colostomy bag. So I had this bag, basically it's a bag of shit that I had stuck to my stomach, and I'll literally be shitting out my intestines into this fucking bag for 3 years. And that, you know, before that I was suicidal. Then I had to go through this. I was like struggling with alcoholism and all this kind of stuff. So I had
Mm.
such really low self-esteem at this point. And it took me a long time to kind of like get past that, get over that. But basically after 3 years with that, I got the operation and it got taken off, it got removed, and I started working for Sikh PA. You know, I don't usually
Mm.
like to mention names of individuals or organizations, but it's a bit kind of unavoidable with this one. You know, I joined CPA, and I joined CPA because of how much I love Jakarta. You know,
Mm.
it was a good opportunity for me because I'd been out of the industry for a while because of my health, and you know, it just seemed to make sense. But I said to them at the beginning as well, I said, look, I'm not pro Khalistan. And they were like, yeah, yeah, don't worry, CPA is apolitical. But I'm like, yeah, look at your content though. You're like, well, like Khalistan, like pro Khalistan. And they were
Mm.
like, and I said to them, look, if you're going to recruit me, because they asked me before I applied, one of their employees came over to me and said, look, would you be interested in that? Why don't you put yourself forward for it? And I was like, I would. It's just that I'm not sure my politics align with you guys, isn't it? But they were
Mm.
saying, oh yeah, we're apolitical, and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, all right, I guess that if you recruit someone like me, I bring balance to it because I know that
Yeah.
there's a lot of Sikhs who aren't pro Khalistan, and I understand why they're not. And you know, we're completely alienating those that Sangat, you know, taking the direction that we're taking. And so that's the reason, you know, I made it very clear in the whole interview process and before the interviews on all my social media. I was posting like why I don't support the Khalistan movement, all this kind of stuff, because I wanted them to be aware of who they're taking on and what they're. Um, I'll talk about that in a second, but you know, I wanted to be aware of who they're recruiting, right? Someone that I think needed, I think CPA needed balance at the time. And it was all good, you know, and they were like, yeah, cool, we agree with you. And I started working for them. And I was now well enough because I had that operation, I was well enough to go to India now. And so I applied for the visa and
Mm.
I didn't get the visa. And they just sent my passport back. And I was like, what's going
Uh-huh.
on here? So I tried again. And I'd already booked my ticket as well because I didn't think that I'd have any problems. And then I applied again, and this time they held on to my passport. And the flight went, I'm still in the UK. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, why are they keeping my passport? And I did hear rumors that, okay, you know, the Indian government is really anti-CPA because, you know, of some of the content that they've put out there. And then basically, again, I won't name names this time, but someone from Sangat basically put me in touch with somebody else from Sangat who was able to put me in touch with like the Indian government in the UK, the Indian High Commission. And I told CPA, I told everyone there, basics of Sikhi, I told everyone, okay, this is what's happening. I've been refused entry into India, but they're holding on to my passport, and now I've got a meeting at the Indian High Commission to basically find out what's going on. And I spoke to them and I was like, look, these are my views. And, I'm part of CPA, but, the reason I'm working for CPA is because I think we're alienating a lot of the Sangat, and I think there's a lot of like balance that needs to be restored. And this is the situation and that. And they were like, okay, you know what? You seem like level-headed banda. You seem all right, but
Yeah.
because you're working for CPA, we can't let you into the country. I'm like, raw, okay. 2 years that I worked for CPA, I was banned from India for those 2 years, and yeah, even when I was working for CPA as well. Like I was doing, it was the farmers' protest started happening, and I was doing these lives like what we're doing now, and I would hear like the volume on my side would be um really low, and there'd be like interference and stuff, and I start speaking to like some of the management at Basics of Sikhi, everything's 13, and I was like, there's something really weird going on with my technology, my phone. I changed my Wi-Fi, I changed my Wi-Fi router, I changed my Wi-Fi provider, I changed everything, but I was still getting all of this interference. And I was like, honestly, I might be imagining it, but it feels like I'm getting like phone tapped. It feels like I'm getting monitored by the Indian government. Like it literally
Mm.
feels like that. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's how it feels. And they were like, I spoke to them, and we thought, we came up with various different ways, workarounds, and basically we got through it in the end somehow. I can't remember what the workaround was. I think I started doing it from a different location or something, the lives. But basically, about a couple of months after I left CPA, it came out of the news that there was this Pegasus operation, and that governments, including India, had been using this spyware software to monitor the phones of journalists. And I was like, that's what it was, man. I flagged it up with CPA at the time. We had these long meetings, long conversations, because I was like, I genuinely think I'm getting tapped and my phone's getting tapped. And then it came out in the news that actually that's what the Indian government is doing. But yeah, so those 2 years that I was with CPA, I was banned from India, innit? And then at the end of those 2 years, the reason I left CPA as well wasn't just about Khalistan, and like we can talk
Mm.
about the Khalistan thing as well. It wasn't just because of that. There was the referendum that was going on, but there was also this abuse case of
Mm.
a lady in Derby,
Mhm.
and basically this Bibby in Derby, she contacted me, and
Mm.
she was like, basically, no one's listening to me, no one's taking me seriously.
Mhm.
She was like, basically, she was in a Derby Gurdwara, and two grantees
Mm.
like took advantage of her. And
Mhm.
I heard her out, listened to her story and that, and you know, I was realistic and balanced about what possibly would have happened. It's very rarely like everyone's 100%. One person is 100% in the right, and the other person's 100% in the wrong.
Mm. Yeah.
I knew that. I could understand that, but she still did have a point that something had happened to her. People had taken advantage of her, and the Sikh organizations didn't give her any support. So basically, she was calling around all of these Sikh organizations, and she was saying like no one's helping her. So she asked me, and I was like, you know what? It does actually sound like something's not right here, because these grantees just went from one job into another job, and there's been no kind of like nothing's happened. Like there's been no safeguarding or nothing like that. And then I spoke to SAS Singh. I was like,
Mm.
look, this Bibby, she's been trying to get in touch with people and this, that, and the other. And she had tried to get in touch with Singh. I don't know why, it kind of fell through fell through the gaps with her, with SAS, with Monzig. But he listened to what I had to say. I put her in touch with the Bibby, and he was like, you know what, she does have a case. There is something that happened here that wasn't right. And then from that point, I started signposting her to like another organization and another organization, and like one. So I think someone in Canada basically made her story public as well, and you know, all the Sangha started having sympathy for her, being like, yeah, you know, something's happened to her. Where are all of these Sikh organizations that are supposed to help our Bibia? They were all asking this. It's like, where are all these Sikh organizations? And I was like, well, I did something. We did something. And so I said to the Sikh PA advisory board, I was like, look, everyone's asking like, why are these Sikh organizations so useless in helping this Bibi? And we can say, well, we did, you know what I mean? We did signpost her. I'm not saying I did anything special. I just put her in touch with people that could help her. And, you know, I think that's worth mentioning, isn't it? And all of the advisory board were like, yeah, cool, you know? And let's put out a statement and let's tell the Sangha that Sikh PA, you know, we did what we're supposed to do. And we put that we'd be in touch with, you know, people that could help her and, you know, get justice, basically. And then in the Sikh PA WhatsApp group, the advisory board WhatsApp group, that's all good. Then I get called, taken to a meeting virtually, because I think COVID was still happening and a lot of people working remotely. And basically I get told off by one of the Sikh PA, no, the Everything's 13 trustees. And he was basically, you know, lost his shit. He was like having a go at me. I was like, for what? Do you know what I mean? What, for helping the Bibby? Do you know what I mean? And then he's like saying to me, oh, you should resign and this, that, and the other. Like, bro, like, all I did was literally put a Bibby in touch with people that can help her. And the grantees actually got removed for their roles. I don't know for how long. I'm not saying they should have been completely like, you know, lost their job and their whole livelihood forever, but there had to be some sort of repercussions. You know, there has to be some sort of consequences, maybe like a temporary ban or something, whatever it is. I don't know what ended up happening, but you know, the Sikh Council, all of these, like there was Sikh Women's Aid got involved, Sikh Helpline got involved, SAS, and they only got involved after I signposted her to the right people. And it's like, why is there like such a why is it such a problem that I've put a Bibby who's come to me saying that she's been abused, and I've put her in touch with people that can help her. And when the Sanghat's asking why haven't the Sikh organizations done anything, we can actually say we have. And now I'm getting told that I should resign as a result of that. And I didn't resign there and then, but then they started with the whole Khalistan referendum, because they used to talk about like Dal Khalsa and Sikhs for Justice, like the same groups like that Sikh PA was affiliated with, like the Khalistan groups and that. They used to say um, that these lot, Dal Khalsa and Sikhs for Justice and these guys, they're agents. They used to be like, oh, these guys are agents. People were wary of them. And then next thing you know, because they've got this referendum and they've got the support of the UN or whatever, everyone seemed to have conveniently forgotten that 2 minutes ago they thought they were agents, and now they're like backing this whole referendum. And I'm like, where's your integrity? Like 2 minutes ago, you were telling me that these guys are agents. Now you're like posting on your social media feed, oh, these guys are doing this referendum. Let's just support the referendum. And I was like, this is just it's a whole joke. The whole, like, all of these Sikh organizations, I just thought, you know what, you guys are joke men. Do you know what I mean? Like, what is going on with you lot? Seriously, you know, like you're trying to stop a Bibi from, you know, getting put in touch with people that can help her. You're saying that some people are agents 1 second, and then the next second you're saying, oh, let's support them. What's changed? Like, what is going on? And obviously, there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and it's like, you know what? I felt now's the time. I just need to move away from it. I've served my 2 years. I've done what I owed for Jagrad Singh for what he's done for me. You know, I've done my bit. You know, what I mean, I don't feel like I could ever really repay him for what he's done for me. But I spent 2 years working for Sikh PA, and it benefited me too. It's not like it was a one-way thing, but I felt like, you know what, now's the time to move on from this. And that's when I was just like, you know what, these Sikh organizations, they're not what I thought they were. And then all those memories of when I was younger and that they were really, like, Amritalis were really judgmental and they weren't really the nicest people. And it started to like come back to me, like, you know what? Yeah, it's you know, I've been pedestalizing people that I shouldn't have been pedestalizing, not just people, but in the groups and organizations. You know, I've been basically giving them too much credit. And yeah, it kind of like shaped a lot of my journey after I became Amritali.
Yeah, someone asked why don't you believe in Khalistan?
Yeah. It's not that I don't believe in Khalistan. It's not the idea of Khalistan. It's just when I see who's at the forefront of that movement, you know, where are the Mahapurush in that movement? and they're not supporting it, who is supporting it? You see people like that lawyer, um, and even like here in the UK, some of the people, these are the same people that stood in the way of that Big B from getting in touch with, charities that could help her, that basically wanted to stand in the way of that. And I just thought that I don't have um like faith. I don't have belief in those individuals, in those groups, the people that are leading those groups. I don't feel like these are the people that are gonna free the Sikhs. The Mahapurush, they're the ones that are gonna free the Sikhs. And we have Mahapurush. There are Mahapurush like Baba Avtar Singh Ji, Baba Nihal Singh Ji. Um, there was Baba Bhagwan Singh Ji, who I met a few years ago as well. There are Mahapurush that are quite, obviously I love Baba Jaginder Singh Ji. They're my Pasha. They're the highest. You know what I mean? And that's like, I'm not expecting everybody else to see what I see when I see Baba Ji, but even these other Mahapurush like Baba Avtar Singh Ji or whoever else, like these are the people that we should be listening to. These are the people whose lead we should be following. And if they're not leading the movement for Kurdistan, then why are we? Do you know what I mean? But you know what? I'll say on that as well. The comment is that someone saying that Malcolm is a Mahapurush. There's a reason why, like, when
He's just
he should
joking. He's
be.
joking, bro. He's joking. I
I
know
know
him.
he's joking. I know he's joking, but at the same time, it's like you reaching out to me saying let's do a live. You're like one of the only people I'd say yes to. Seriously, like I've got a lot of respect for you. I know like the way that you talk is real. Do you know what I mean? It's not like sugar coated. It's not. You see the real, and that's why I feel like I can talk openly as well as
Yeah, you
you
can
in it.
talk openly, bro. But,
Yeah,
everyone's got different views, opinions. It's
yeah,
chilling, innit?
yeah.
So, what's the responsibility of the Khalsa in the UK?
Do you know what? Take responsibility for where you are. Do you know what I mean? Like take responsibility first for your home, your household. Take responsibility for that. Do you know what I mean? Make sure that you're taking care of everyone, that you're being solid, dependable for your family, right? Then make sure in the Gurdwara that you're there. You're dependent. People see you as someone that they can rely on, that they can depend on, and not just someone that's an easy pushover, but someone that's solid. Like have the sangha see you that way, and then when you've got that, you can start going out into the community. Do you know, we've got this saying. He's not Amritari, but he goes and he's a Sikh and he goes and feeds the homeless every day. Do you know what I mean? He goes and feeds the homeless, regardless of what nationality they are, what religion they are, whatever. He provides a hot meal for everyone every single day, and he gets like other groups involved. He gets families involved. He brings people together. He's a coordinator as well. He doesn't do all the cooking himself. He doesn't do it all off his own back. You know, but he does it. Do you know what I mean? And like if he can do that, you know, that's one element. That's providing the dig. We've got things how Carlton have this dig for there, and that guy's an example of with what we're doing right, which is the dig. We've got Midland Langar Seva doing a similar thing in the Midlands. You've got SWAT doing a similar thing in London as well. You've got people who are providing the dig, but what about the dig? Protection. Like we should be seen as the ones that when everything kicks off, it's just an automatic situation. You just go to the Singhs, you go to the Khalsa. When the London riots happened, it was a few years ago, like 2012, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
2011, yeah.
2011, right? And the Khalsa, like the Sikhs, they were protecting all of Southall. They were protecting all of the Gurdwara, all of the places of worship of other faiths, all of the businesses. And Southall could see at that time, even the police were saying it. There was like videos going around of the police even saying it on camera. The Sikh brothers are basically, saving us. They've got this covered. Do you know what I mean? And that should be the standard. Like where a Sikh is, people should feel safe. That's the main thing. Wherever you've got Sikhs living, people should feel safe. And are we really doing that? We're not. We're really not. Even like that Derby situation is just a prime example. That's what got me so deflated. It's we're not doing that, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. That's our hukum, and we're not living up to it.
Yeah, the with the Derby case, I did look into it,
Mm.
and from what I know, the police said it was like a lot of it was consensual. She went back about 14 times, 14 sexual encounters. maybe there was some force. We'll never know, but there was not enough for the police to press charges. Bucky Ollie Rob knows, innit? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But there was some texts. She went in for a phone charger. She was talking to them after the rape. So I'm not saying it's fault. I don't know. I'm not qualified. I didn't look into it that
mm,
much. But sometimes people make fake allegations, or some women are warped as well.
that's
Uh,
true.
yeah, I'm not saying this is the case. In this case, I don't know enough about it, but I know SAS
Mm,
looked at it. They took it to the police. The Gyanis actually admitted consensual. This is
mm,
why
yeah,
they were kicked out, or they moved to another Gurdwara. But yeah,
mm,
our Gurdwaras moved pedos that have actually, done a sexual crime to another Gurdwaras. And this brings us back to the next question: safeguarding our youth from sexual abuse.
mm,
You've worked with youth, right? So,
yeah.
what can you bring to the table? How should we go about it? Where are we going wrong? The cover-ups, whatever. No?
You know what? There's two elements of that, right? Just wrapping up the Derby one first of all.
Yeah,
Like I said to her as well, I was like, look, this is
yeah,
not doesn't classify as rape. I said it to her straight, and
yeah,
Mon Singh is the same as well. It's like, no, it's not rape, but even for consensual adults who are married to be having sex in the Gurdwara, there has to
yeah.
be a consequence for that. That's all I was saying, is there has to be a consequence for that. I'm not saying anything about rape. I'm not saying it. And she
Okay,
did. There was other elements to the story as well, where there was a little bit of coercion, especially at the beginning,
yeah.
fine, whatever. But the main thing was that these are, married folk having affairs in the Gurdwara Sahib, and that's not okay for a grunting to do.
Madness, bro.
You know, that's all I was saying. I
She
wasn't
was
saying
she
anything
was
about
she
that.
was currently married at the time, wasn't she as
Yeah,
well?
yeah, yeah. I'm
And
not saying she was.
these
Yeah,
Ghanis were married as well, or
yeah. From
did
what I,
did both did both Ghanis sleep with her, or was it just
yeah,
one of
from what I understand, but I don't want to go
them?
into too much into someone
Yeah,
else's business and that.
yeah, yeah.
But it was like, you
That's
know,
madness, bro.
yeah.
You never think this shit in it, bro. This is like
I
you
was
never
shocked.
think. Yeah, it's shocking, but nothing
Mm.
shocks me no more. But it's shocking. It's
But
one
back
of
to
them, bro.
well, it's the world we live in, isn't it? But back to what you were saying about like the grooming, right? There's two elements to it.
Yeah,
There's underage grooming, and then
yeah,
there's what's happening with girls who are overage. We still call that grooming. There's two separate strands, right? But with the underage grooming, that's something that obviously is illegal. And
yeah,
I think on that front, I think in general, when things find out about that, and we make a big deal of it. We say to
yeah,
the police like, unless you're going to do something about it, we're going to do something about it. And I've seen that
yeah,
happen a lot. And that's really, really good. I think obviously this has been an issue since like Sikhi was established, right? That outside forces, certain communities are targeting, women from our community. It's been the case for centuries, and it's still a case. It's still the case today, right? And when it's underage girls, like we've got a legal kind of protection there, and we have to do something about it. And I think in general, I think the Gorde look to the Sikhs as the example of how to go about it. Do you know what I mean? The Gorde are always like praising the Sikhs, they're praising like Mohan Singh, and you see him on like LBC and other mainstream channels as well because of the good work that the Sikh community is doing in fighting this underage grooming problem. And that's it all starts at home as well, and making sure that your daughters aren't subjected to this kind of brainwashing, right? But in terms of like doing things about underage grooming, I think generally speaking, credit where it's due. I think things are doing, um, as good a job as they can. But when it comes to when a girl's a little bit older and then she's making the conscious choice to date, someone of a different faith, I think that really falls on us because we're not being of a standard as men that women find attractive. Simple as. Simple as. Things are not in general. There's obviously here and there a few things that do do well, in terms of like presenting themselves and actually are solid bande and that, and women find them attractive and this that and the other. There are a few, but in general, I would say six. We're not the kind of bande that women want to be with because we've we've eaten up all of this brainwashing. All of this like, oh, we have to you know be subservient to everybody, that we have to, you know, even like allowing. people of different faiths to come into the Gurdwara and do their own prayers in the Gurdwara. Like, we have no boundaries. Like, we will just let anything go, whatever. We just like, you know, hanji hanji, just come and do whatever you want to do. Just take the piss out of us. Do you know what I mean? That's who we've become. It's like we don't have a spine. Men don't have a spine. Sikh men don't have a spine. Singhs, who are like to look at are the roop of the Guru. They don't have that kind of strength. You know, they don't even think they need that kind of strength, and they don't see that they don't have that strength. That women don't think, okay, this man is going to make me feel safe. This man is going to be able to provide for me. This man is everything that I ever dreamed of. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so few of us men who live up to that ideal, that our women give us that kind of level of respect, and they look for it. Like, I mean, I don't want to be too harsh on our men as well, because like up until 1 or 2 generations ago, everyone was getting arranged marriage. You know, like your dad didn't really have that experience of how to court women to be able to like tell you how to go about dating and this, that, and the other, right?
Mm.
Um, I don't know who this Jimmy Two Guns is,
I don't know
but
who he is as well, but he wants to come on. But I said towards the end, innit? Like, we're gonna finish our show and then we'll give him a
uh,
chance. Yeah, because I don't know
uh,
who he is anyway. Innit? So I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. But this is the thing: is that we're not doing our part. We're not being that role model. You know, we're not walking that walk. You know, we're talking the talk, but we're not walking the walk. We're not solid. We haven't got our boundaries. We're not inspirational. Just in general, you know, there are a few people who are more than others, but like in general, it's like we're not really like uh, a Pakistani, for instance, right? Has in their culture, they'll happily go up to a, a Sikh woman, tell her that she's, you know, fit or hot or whatever, tell her that he wants to date her, and you know, like put the ball in her court kind of thing, innit? And she'll be attracted to that because this guy's forward. This guy is like, you know, he doesn't beat around the bush. He's just like direct. And one of our lot will be, and again, this is a massive generalization, I know, but it's something that we have to address. We'll try, you know, we'll find ourselves in the friend zone. We'll try to like make her happy. We'll try to like, you know, oh, can I help you with this? Can you know? And then like hopefully that thinking that by being nice to her, nice to her, nice to her, the she's gonna turn around and say, okay, will you be my husband? Do you know what I mean? That's what I was in my 20s, bro. And that's where a lot of men are. I see them even now, like even men who are married, you know, even they are simps, right? And this is the thing,
No,
man.
the Janani are running the house in a lot of households, bro.
Yeah,
Like, there's men that are locked away. Like, they're not allowed to see their friends. They're not allowed to choose what holiday. They're not allowed to choose. They're not allowed to have the car that they want. It's crazy, bro. And I see it in my front of my eyes. And it's this is why I don't know. Like even the fathers, they can't tell their daughters when they're half naked. They ain't got the guts to say it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And this it comes back down to like having those boundaries, having those values, standing up for what you believe in, and actually being a banda, like actually being, you know, being the man of the house, being, you know, they call it toxic masculinity, but the only thing is toxic is when you haven't got masculinity. It's the lack of masculinity that's toxic. You know, a toxic man doesn't beat a woman. Sorry, a masculine man doesn't beat a woman. A toxic man does, but that's because he's not masculine. You know, this is what it comes down to. Is like masculinity being something that we're afraid of. You know, we're even afraid to talk. I mean, even when I was working at CPA, you know, they wanted to do this initiative, which was like a Singh's camp, and I even mentioned the word like masculinity, like Singhs getting together and just being men, you know, and it's like, no, no, we can't use that word masculine. We can't say that. We don't want to go that direction. It's like, why not? Like a Singh is supposed to is the most masculine thing you know on earth. You know, like you got a Kirpan, you got a Dara, you got, you know, you're a warrior. That's the most masculine thing we're supposed to, you know, we're not living up to that. And if we were, then there would be a shift. You know, there would be a shift. These men wouldn't be disrespected in their own households. They'd be able to drive whatever car they want. You know what I mean? It would be, you know, the shift would happen. But instead, we've brought into all the brainwashing and we've, you know, softened ourselves because we think that's what's going to, you know, get us our relationship. You know, being a walkover, being a doormat. And we think girls find that attractive, and actually they don't. They really don't.
Next thing goes, Punjabi girls tend to want a guy, end up with coaches that are allowed to date.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
yeah, I think spot on as well.
but yeah, look. the Sikhi, the Maharaj just said no sex before marriage is to protect
Mm.
us.
Yeah,
Yeah, but you can date, you can get to know somebody. You don't. It doesn't always need to go physical straight away or whatever. You know, you can do you can wait, you can do your lava and get married. So Sikhi wise, but most people are just sleeping around anyway, innit? So there are Punjabi guys. Loads of Punjabi guys are dating girls. They are
yeah.
dating girls. You know what I mean? And everything Maharaj tells us is for our protection.
Mm.
It's for morals. It's to protect our honor, protect the izzat is a big thing.
Yeah.
Because what happens is when you start sleeping around before marriage, the baggage carries on. You could get a disease, you can get pregnancy, but you can date. You know, we can't say we're in the arranged marriage era. Like, if my kid is going to get married, I'm not going to do his arranged marriage. I'm going to say, you get to find someone, you get to know them and really know what you're getting into. But you don't know someone till you live with them as well. I know people that have dated for 10 years and they've got divorced in the first year.
But you know, the older generations is the traditional approach that's what works. And like our grandparents' generation, our great grandparents' generation, their grandparents' generations, they had it right. Then what they would do is they would get people married at a young age, and the parents would know
Yeah.
the character of the children. They'd know like what their like how their life is likely to turn out, and who's going to be a suitable match for them. We've gone so far the other direction when we don't want our parents involved in any of our decisions when it comes to dating. They just have to accept it, you know. And it's like if
Mm,
parents were a lot more involved, and if there was that kind of dialogue between the child and the parent, saying, "Look, what kind of person are you looking for? You know, let's help each other. Let's work on this together and do it at a young age." And even if you do get married at a young age, I do think that's a good thing as long as you're
it's
putting in
better.
that work to work on yourself, to develop yourself, and actually become a man. Because it's very easy to get married young and then you just simp for your wife, and then next thing you know, she's like cheating on you or whatever. You know, it does happen.
Yeah.
You know, like you say, a lot of men are in relationships, but yeah, a lot of men are in relationships. But what is the power balance like in those relationships? You know, is the man respected? Is the man the head of the household? And I know it sounds like, even as I'm saying it, I'm like, I could get cancelled for saying this, but it's the truth. Like our our grandparents' generations are, you know, all the way back to, you know, the beginning of Sikhi, you know, the man has been the leader, and it has to be that way, you know. And I know we've gone so far away from that that me saying this sounds really toxic and sounds really like, um, you know, chauvinistic, but you know, I'm not here to like sugarcoat things. You know, it's here to be. I'm here to tell the truth. Do you know what I mean? Like what I see, like the truth of what I see, and it's just that.
Yeah, 100%. The other thing, we're in the era of social media and influence. You got any views on how we should use our platforms? What's negative about social media? How we can navigate? Well, this guy goes, how long do you reckon? Shall I get him on for 2 minutes?
Not just yet, because I think you got a really important question there,
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm saying. I've only got a few more questions, bro, and then you can come on towards the end because I don't want to ruin the flow because we've got energy, we've got a flow going on, and if someone else comes, it can totally
mm,
like ruin our flow in it. It's not
yeah,
that I don't know who he is, but he keeps asking. But yeah,
yeah,
just
it's
we take our time.
patience, bro. You got to be
But if we
patient.
can get you on. If not next time, bro, I'll do a show with you, bro. No problem.
Yeah, it's a bit awkward as well. For like we don't even know who you are, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Cheeky two
yeah,
cats.
yeah.
I mean,
Normally,
but
I'll let people on towards the end. You know, when we're all done, and then I'll say, then like we can always cut that bit out if it is a negative thing or whatever.
the thing is, you asked me a really important question because like my whole background is in journalism and media, right? And
Yeah,
how we use social media. And we have to understand that when we go onto BBC News or whatever, it's not the truth. You know, when we go onto our timeline and we see like all of this news, we can't just assume that because it's a big name that everyone's heard of that they're telling us the truth. They're not. Do you know what I mean? And I say this because I've worked in those environments and I know how the news cycle works. Like the journalists, they don't question anything. They get fed something and then they report it as though they actually found it out for themselves. We didn't. We got given press releases. We read the
mm,
press releases. We might have spoken to an analyst about it who've got the same kind of opinion as us, same kind of like perspective as us. They give us the, you know, their view on it. We've turned it into a story and then we push it out there. This is how the news cycle works. And when I started my career, there was no online news. It was like newspapers, and like online news was just starting to become a thing. And just TV news, radio news, newspapers, and that meant you had to wait until like 6 o'clock or 10 o'clock to hear the news, or the next morning to read the newspaper. Now on things like Twitter, on your news feed or whatever, you've got like news pushed to you every second. Like if you like, it's like a race. Whoever gets the news to you quickest, like they're the ones that are going to get the popularity, get the clicks, get the likes, get the money, basically, because they're the
Mm.
quickest. But they don't fact check and they don't research what they're telling you. So they're just taking the press release, taking what they're given from like a company, and then they're reporting it as though it's the truth. They don't know it's the truth or not. And I remember seeing this with the war in Syria, because all of the newspapers were getting their news, or all of the news outlets, even online as well, they were getting the news from like the Syrian Observatory House or something like that, some like um some think tank. And when you research who this group was that was telling everyone what's happening in Syria, it was one man in an office in Coventry. He's not even in Syria. And this guy's telling everyone what's happening in Syria. And this is the trusted source for the BBC, for CNN, for Sky News, everyone on what was happening in Syria at the time. There were other people who were literal like freelance journalists who had their own social media following, and they were in Syria and they were reporting the news in Syria. And then you could see like what the difference was between what they were reporting and what like BBC and Sky News and those guys were reporting. It's like the completely different sides of the story. And it's like, wait, hold on a minute, like where is all this news coming from? Who's telling us this news, and what's the agenda behind the news? And this is where we fall short. So we don't question the agenda, we just accept the news. And unfortunately, it's the vast majority of people. And even though it's starting to change a little bit, I've seen a little bit of change recently, not a lot. People just, you see the BBC logo, the Sky News logo, and you just accept that, okay, this must be the truth. But then if you dig further, like when I was ill and I wasn't able to work, this is what I was doing. I sat in front of a
Mm.
computer, doing my research, trying to find out, okay, what is actually going on with the whole way the news is being reported? What's the real truth? And all it takes is a bit of digging, and you see, hold on a minute, you guys aren't reporting the truth. You're just pushing your agenda. That's all it is. And we haven't woken up to that as a community. That's the first thing we need to do, is just start understanding that everything that we see is is a perspective of the truth. It's not the truth. You got to take it with a pinch of salt. And if you've got like ever since I can remember, I used to read the right wing media, but I also used to read the left wing media. So I would have
Mm.
a balanced perspective. I would know, okay, the truth is somewhere in the middle. And this is
100%,
an art
bro.
that I don't think that we, as a community, we're doing that enough. And we're just kind of, you know, like look at how when COVID happened, the Gurdwara turned themselves into these vaccine clinics. And now, a few years
Mm.
later, you're seeing all of the repercussions of the vaccines. You're
Yeah,
having these like, these parasites in people's bodies. You're having people
no.
dying of heart
People are ill,
failures.
bro. My mum's not been the same since the vaccine, bro. I'm telling you, bro.
Mine
I told
too.
her not to take it. Yeah, she's not been the
Yeah,
same. But they were scared and they believed in all the media. I'm not the
exactly.
biggest conspiracy theorist, but I just look, but just by common sense, you just know it wasn't researched enough anyway.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
it.
rushed out anyway. Just on a logical human perspective, it takes 10 years to see. They didn't check the long term effects, and people
Yeah,
paying the price, and with the your thing propaganda.
yeah,
Even some of our own history, there's a lot of propaganda. There's
yeah.
one, some of our history is one like 1947. We
Mm,
believe all the things were just victims, and we didn't kill any innocents either. But it's when you look at the both sides, the partition. A lot of us, 84 is a lot of, you got to dig deep, man. It's not just like what we hear in the talks or from basics and Sikhi, or there's
mm,
other side to it, and it's not all propaganda. We have our own propaganda as well. The Lizelle riots in Birmingham, it was said that Ghali was raped in a cosmetic shop, right? And look how many people died,
yeah.
shooting, stabbings, running over. And you know what? It was a lie. She didn't
Wow.
get raped.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was bullshit.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
I mean, the other thing as well with that is like you were saying about 1947, and in the 1920s when the SGPC was founded, like at that same, like I think 2 years before that, there was a Freemason lodge that was set up in Amritsar. And about a year or two before that, there was another Freemason lodge, I think in Chandigarh. And basically, what happened was the British came. They had these. two Anglo-Sikh wars with the Khalsa. Khalsa recruited to Huzur Sahib, and basically the British took over Punjab. And then when they gave the custody of the Gurdwara back to the Sikhs, they handpicked those Sikhs, and those Sikhs were the ones that actually joined them, that actually joined their forces. And one of the ways that they would do that is through making them into Freemasons. And like if you look at all of the generals that were in part of the East India Company when they were fighting against us in the Anglo-Sikh Wars, they're all prominent Freemasons as well, and our Sikhs are joining the Freemasons thinking, oh yeah, they're just going to help us get ahead in life or whatever, open doors for us, networking and stuff like that. And the truth of the matter is, these are the same people that basically killed our people, took our Gurdwara over, took Sri Dasam Guru Granth Sahib Ji out of Gurdwara, shortened our Rehra Sahib, shortened our Chowpai Sahib. They did everything they possibly could, changed our Maryada, took away our Damalle, and gave us these triangle-shaped Gurdwara. And it's like, you're part of them, bro. Like, you've just taken their Amrit. Do you know what I mean? You've just joined them. You've been initiated into their brotherhood, not your own brotherhood. Do you know what I mean? So, like, this is another thing. Is like people don't realize that they think it's all just networking opportunities or whatever to join these kind of organizations, but you don't need any of that. The Khalsa is where what is meant for a Sikh. If you want to join a brotherhood as a Khalsa, as a Sikh, you join the Khalsa. And people, because they haven't done their research, because we've been so detached from our history, we don't realize that we're actually joining the people that, made it their aim to destroy Sikhi.
No,
It's like,
I never knew that Freemasons were in India in 1920, bro.
yeah, that's when it all started. Like, just before the SGPC was founded. And then there's like other pictures online you can find of like the people who were SGPC founders, like the founding committees in like all their aprons with their like things over there. So they have these like aprons that cover their dotto in it. They do that
Oh
because it's like for them the phallus is like a really just like what the khanda is to us, the
yeah.
phallus is to these guys. They're really like consumed by the sexual like energies. It's like that's the kind of ultimate, and it's like people call it Satanism or whatever, but what it is like the pursuit of pleasure. It's the pursuit of whatever makes you feel good. you know that's what people say, like chase your highest desire. But that's literally calm. Like desire is calm, and they're basically this whole way of thinking to chase your highest desire and to do what makes you happy. That's basically given to Garm. That's what it's telling you to do. And the whole world is like, thinks like this, is conditioned to think like this, rather than, wait, hold on, take a step back, work on your relationship with your guru, understand who your guru is, what your guru wants from you. You're not trying to please yourself, you're trying to please your guru. And that's the big thing, is that people don't know that. People have lost sight of that.
So next question will be advice for the Sangat. So anyone that wants, so take all your experiences, what you learned in life, Sikhi Sangat. Just say there's a youngster who's 18, is coming into Sikhi. What would you advise him? Like a little
Yeah.
like a little heads up, Like,
It's the number one relationship in your life is your guru. That's the only relationship you need to worry about. Every other relationship will fall into place as long as your relationship with your guru is right. And that, how does it actually look? Jap now. First thing as soon as you wake up, start jumping nam, do your isnan, do your nitnem, just dedicate as much. The more you dedicate your life to the guru, the better it's going to work out for you. It's just straightforward. The more you devote yourself to the guru. If you look at every guru that was appointed, like when Guru Nanak Sahib Sachi Pashaji made Guru Angad Dev Ji Maharaj the next guru, they did all these tests, and Maharaj had to pass those tests to become the next guru, and that was a test of their devotion. And when the Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj created the Khalsa, called the Panch Pyare, who's willing to give your head? It was a test of devotion, and this is what the Guru is asking for you. And if you show them your devotion, the Guru will elevate you. The Guru will elevate you to a state where like you're unrecognizable. Do you know what I mean? So the number one relationship has to be with the Guru, and you show your devotion to the Guru. You just live in devotion to the Guru. You know, that means doing your nittim, doing your simran, doing your seva, doing your bhakti, doing your, you know, santya, doing your kirtan, whatever it is that you
Mm.
need to do, but just throwing yourself into it. And you won't regret it. If you throw yourself towards the Guru, you're never going to regret that.
Amazing. That's number sound advice. Next question, bro. Sometimes people go through a bad patch in Sikhi. They might have an incident, like, they get depressed or someone from the Sangha messes them over. I call it Bantik fatigue. I done put 12 years into the band. Towards the end, I had fatigue. Saw the cover-ups, saw the malaise, saw the fraud, the skanking, just had, negative experiences. How does someone pick themselves up from Bantik fatigue
You know
or
what?
from a bad patch, Because we've met, look, I'm not saying I'm in the Sangat and I've got my guard up now, bro. Yeah,
Yeah,
there was a time I had my guard down, heart on the sleeve. I
yeah,
believed in everything. I looked at everything as Jabdi Glass, Sansapai, and I've come a long way from that. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. When I walked into the Godaron, I didn't know nothing. I didn't see the blood bee. I couldn't see through the auntie or the bibi or the chugal course. Now when I walk in,
yeah,
I don't walk in because I just know too much, bro. I just
yeah,
know too much, bro. And it's like it's something. It can become when you know too much.
yeah,
It's just you pick up on all the negativity. So you walk into a good car and come out with I saw this, I saw that. You're just calculating stuff.
yeah,
So it's called pantic fatigue.
yeah,
How do we come back? You've come back from it. I could
yeah,
tell you, yeah, I've come back from it to an extent where I'm doing these lives and other things. I do try to care about the bond as much as I can. Because
yeah,
normally other people just, once they're done pumping stick, you never see them again. It's not
yeah,
that they leave Sikhi. Some people do
yeah,
because they can't separate the bunt from the grunt.
mm,
Um, so they whatever the Sikh does to them, they blame Sikhi, they blame the Guru. But even Guru Maharaj says, what fault is it of the Guru if the Sikh is done wrong to you? You know what I mean? There's a quote in Barney like that. I don't know what ang it is,
right,
but yeah. So how do people build themselves up? Some people just they stay within their own families. They do the part at home, or they have a few sings or singania that they get to congregate with, and they've all first suffered Bantik fatigue, and they come out of the community.
yeah. So it's a real thing. Bantic fatigue.
Mm.
It's real. It's
It's
definitely
real,
real.
one. It's
Yeah,
real, isn't it?
yeah,
Mm.
big time, big time. And I think I've been through. I don't think you and I are too different in terms of like where we're at now, in terms of how far you've gotten past it and how far I've gotten past it. I'm still,
Yeah, I think we're on a similar
yeah,
plane. That's why we connect.
yeah, you know. But I had to spend time in isolation, like literally, like
Hundred
no
percent.
friends, no one in my life. You know, literally, like I turn up to work, but those are just colleagues. You know, I don't
Yeah.
literally have any sangat except for the guru. You know, and when Mahapurush come, I spend time with the Mahapurush. As much time as I can spend with the Mahapurush, I'd love to spend time with the Mahapurush. But other than that, on my J's all the time, and that's you start. You have to start liking yourself again. You know, you got to start being like, you know what, you know, when you're kind to people, especially like when you meet new people, but you know you're still guarded. You know, that's being sensible. Just like you were saying, you know, I had my heart on my sleeve as well. You know,
Mm.
wanted to be liked by everyone. Do you know what I mean? And then when you still have that kindness and you still keep that kind of pyar in your heart, but you're just guarded with it, you know, then holy, like people, when you go outside of the Sikh community or, you know, your Sangat, and you start, you know, getting out into the world and people start seeing that in you, that actually you're a really kind person, but you're just guarding that, then that helps me. It's like, you know, in the workplace, for example, I start getting, you know, people speaking, you know, praising me in the workplace, like, you know, you're doing a really good job, and, you know, this, that, and
Mm.
the other. And then, like I said, it's about, you know, finding yourself in a situation where wherever you go in your life, you're respected. You know, if it's in the workplace, if it's at home, if it's when you're with like friends or someone, whoever you're with, they're people that actually really respect you. You know, and you know that it's not like questionable. It's not like, oh yeah, you know, they'll say something in front of your face and another thing behind your back. It's like, no, you know, and you know those people that are doing it, those people that you can't like, you know, like colleagues or whatever that you can't really escape that from, but you just keep your distance from them. But that's what it comes down to, I think. Keeping your distance from, keeping the right distance from people, and ensuring that the people that you do have with you are only people that love you. Do you know what I mean? I don't mean necessarily romantic love, but love is deeper than romance. That people actually, if you're a loving person, you know what that feels like when someone else is in your circle and they're a loving person. Do you know? Like, just have that, love around you, wherever it comes from, whoever it comes from. They don't have to be Barney Wallace things. They don't, in Punjab you get a lot of Barney Wallace things that got a lot of love, but unfortunately here not all of them, you get that feeling from, but just whoever it is in your life that's showing you real love and respect, and you have that same relationship with them, just hold on to those people, and keep a distance from everyone else. You have to do it that way, because otherwise you start falling into the old ways again. You start, trying to. It's like you. I think Mike Tyson said this, but I kind of thought it myself before as well, that you trust a snake to be a snake. You're not going to start trying to pet a snake and play with a snake. You're
No.
going to treat a snake like a snake. Because it's got venom in it. It's gonna, if it's threatened by you, it's gonna attack you. So don't be surprised if it does that. You should know that's a snake. That's what snakes do, right? Treat a snake as a snake. Don't expect a snake to play like a puppy. Do you know what I mean? But know who you're dealing with. Know what the character of people are that you're dealing with, and if you're not sure, then keep them at a distance until you are sure. And if they're
Yeah.
not, loving, respectful people, then they can keep that distance. Do you know what I
Yeah. Well, as you get older, you get better at reading energies, your intuition.
mean?
Your
You
gut never
experience them.
lies. Yeah, your
Mm.
gut never lies.
Yeah,
Sometimes we ignore our gut. Sometimes we use there's emotions, there's the heart, and there's logic. And if the two don't match, then always go for this. Never go for this. Go
yeah,
in for this, that can get broken. But use this
yeah. But
and
this is where the
make
good
sure they're
comes in.
working in sync. Mm.
This
But
is
the
this.
more,
Yeah,
yeah, sorry. I said the
no,
more bhakti you do, the more Guru's got your back, and the more
100%.
your frequency, you become like an antenna
Yeah,
for auras and energies.
yeah, yeah.
You, you can read good vibes and stuff like that.
And if you're
Yeah, so
unsure, you can ask your guru, innit? You can always ask your guru. However that looks, even if you're still sitting there, you just say, Guruji, like, and there's no one there to talk, you're not in front of Maharaj, you're just saying, Guruji, what, can you help me with this, whatever. And as long as, like I've said it before, like, as long as you ask sincerely, Maharaj will show you, man. As long as you got that love in your heart and you're just sincere about it, Maharaj wants to help you. Do you know what I mean? But you got to reach out to Maharaj, and whichever way, is available to you, you know.
no, I respect, man. This has been a great convo. Spoke
Yeah,
from the
bro.
heart. A lot of topics been covered.
Yeah, bro.
And I think I'm gonna leave this up, put it on my YouTube, and I think Sangat can benefit from it. Everyone's got a separate journey, everyone's got a different path, everyone's got a different experience. None of us two are saying we're right. This is
Yeah,
just our journey. In 10, 20 years, we could have a different view. We could look back at this and was I on that tip? We could be on a total different tip.
100%.
Life, as experiences come, as the hammers hit you, they mold you like the sword getting molded on the forge when the sword's getting molded. Life
Yeah,
does that to you.
yeah,
God Maharaj sends, whether it's a disability, whether it's a good experience or bad experience, Maharaj is hammering us all the time. Our own decisions are hammering us all the time to forward us into the end product before we die. Then we go to Dharam Raj. Hopefully, well, we all want to get Jivan Mukht, but come on, let's be real, yeah. It's not going to be easy. It's possible, but it's not an easy path, guys. It takes consistency. It takes, it takes a lot of determination. And at the end of all, it takes kirpa, loving devotion, prema bhakti, and kirpa. And yeah, this other Singh wanted to join. I don't know who he is, but he's been asking so many times.
I'm
Where
actually quite curious to find out myself as well now.
Yeah, so Singh, if you join, like, come on, you don't destroy the flow. Chat nicely, chat softly, because this is been a mellow talk. None of us are hype. We're too old to be hype men, so we'll add you. See what you got to say. I've sent the request, bro. You better not be no RSS agent and mess us up now. You know what I mean? Uh-huh.
Jimmy Two Guns.
Operation Pegasus Part Two. You know, they're still being following Master Singh. I've, I've, yeah, I've added you, bro. You not be able to join. Oh, he's not joining now.
No.
I've added you, brother. Sorry, add me. I've added you. I've added you a few times. I'll get one more time. If you- Last time I was doing a podcast with Saintly Soldiers.
Yeah.
Again, by Jagraj Singh inspired him as well.
Yeah.
Then someone else wanted to join, and it was a woman, and she's gonna do rishta and stuff. It's good that it's good that people want to join. It's good. It's good, but it's like sometimes you take a gamble in it. That's why I wait till the end, so at
Yeah.
least no one can mess up the whole podcast.
Yeah.
So because people play games, people sabotage stuff. You know
Yeah.
what people are like, innit? I've tried
100%.
to add him a few times. It's not going through.
No, it's not his day.
Nah, it's not meant to be.
Yeah.
Try again, yeah, but I've tried. I'm accepting it. Maybe if I send you a request, let me try. Jimmy Two Guns, man, like Jimmy Two Guns. Nah, I'm a real Singh. Okay. The universe is not letting it happen, bro. Look, I've added you. I'm adding you so many times. I've done it about 50 times now. Can't you accept it, bro?
Is he jumping on?
Nah, it's bro. What type of name is Jimmy Two Guns, though, bro? Come on. That,
It must be a burner account. It must be, right?
yeah. Jimmy Two Thumbs or guns, bro? You better have some guns, bro. You better pull them out on camera, bro.
Mm.
Even if it's replicas, blank firers. Nah, it's not happening, bro.
That's not happening.
Sorry. I've tried. I've pressed it about 50 times, Sing. It's not meant to be. Jello next time. Jello, Master Singh, respect for your time, bro. I hope the son can learn from this. It's a real experience. How's your health now? Like, what's happened? Like,
Maharaj Kirpa, I'm fine now, man. Maharaj got
yeah,
me
you
through.
look
And
much better, but your face is filled up because I remember I touched base with you when I saw your story about the bag, and I was like,
yeah,
shit, man, Singh's suffering. So
yeah,
me and you connected from there, and your face, everything is so different. We didn't think you were gonna make it. It was quite touch and go, wasn't it? It wasn't. It wasn't. It was quite scary, bro. Like you had lost a lot of weight,
mm.
surgery after surgery. It was a. It was not a nice time, bro. But
I knew that Maharaj had more in store for me. I didn't ever doubt that I was, not gonna make it. It's just that I didn't want to have that bag for the rest of my life, and I didn't want to, like I felt like I lost so much of myself at that point that I didn't know if I was ever gonna get it back. I knew I was gonna make it through. I knew Maharaj, like I had that faith, like Maharaj put that faith in me, and the thing is, what got me through it was Japji Sahib, because.
yeah, that's what started your journey as well, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And Maharaj, Mahapurush gave me a bhajan in it, and it was all about Japji Sahib, like Japji Sahib in it. And that, that bhajan that showed me that Japji Sahib, just reciting Japji Sahib, is what let me get to where I am today, man. I can't. There's
Nah,
nothing else that brought me back to where I am now. Not even back. I'm further along than I ever was. Do you know what I mean? Like spiritually, and in terms of how I feel about myself. Do you know? I don't remember ever feeling this good. And it's all Japji Sahib, it's all Maharaj, it's all the Shabad Guru.
your
Do you know what I
Shabbat's good,
mean?
isn't it?
Yeah, and I've had
When you
some
get,
good sangat as well. I want to
yeah.
reiterate that as well. I've had, that Mahakal Nirankar Singh ji,
Hmm,
Baba Joginder Singh ji, and
hmm.
Bhai Jagraj Singh ji. Like I've had good people. It's not all been bad. I've had some good people around me. But obviously it's the Shabad Guru that saved me. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
'cause even that Baba Joginder Singh Ji,
Yeah.
what's his main message, bro? Like, what does he say to you guys?
Jab Naam, innit? Just and it's like with Baba this is how. Like whenever I'm with Babaji, like I'll just sitting next to Babaji, I'll get my mala and I'll start jumping nam, and it's almost like automatic. It's like I don't even have to think about it. I'm just like with Babaji, it's the energy is just it's unlike like anything I've ever seen before. And I knew like even before I met Babaji in person, I knew they were Bant Basha. I knew they were like the highest Mahapurush. And then like how I met them in the first place as well. Like I literally stumbled upon the tambu that they were staying in. I didn't know they were here. I thought they were gonna be at the stadium, but they were in their tambu. And and Babaji is just always, he's just full of love. You know, he's just full of love. And being with Babaji, like for the last 3 years, I've spent time in Rakaba with Babaji, and Babaji's been here every summer as well for 3 years.
He
And
has, isn't it? Yeah, he's been there.
and the time I spent with Babaji, Babaji got me believing in myself again. Babaji got me like seeing what I have to offer, like who I am. Do you know what I mean? Like the way
Wow.
that Babaji showed me respect, and I'm there thinking, like, you're showing me respect, but you're the
Mm-hmm.
Mahapurush, innit? Like, what's that
Mm-hmm.
all about? And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, just when someone does that for you, you're like, wow, you know, you feel on top of the world, you know? And yeah, Babaji really helped me like that. Yeah.
What's the next program? Is he coming down this summer then? From
To be honest, bro, I'm so like isolated from all of the
Sunday.
Nahangsi like groups and Jatir and politics and that. Like, I don't know, man. I'm not the right person to ask in it, but I do know that when
Okay.
Babaji does come back, I'll be there. But in
Yeah,
terms of,
yeah.
I don't have like I
Okay,
don't
yeah,
have a
you're just
number or
doing your
nothing.
own
You know
thing.
what I mean?
You're doing your own thing. Just
Yeah,
sometimes it's the best way, bro. It's a reset, reconfigure yourself. Sometimes Sangat can be negative, you know. So there's a Sar Sangat. So when you go and jump an arm, everybody's sitting there while they're jumping arm is Sad Sangat. Yeah,
mm,
even if it's a bad person, evil person, or you're up. At the time the Naam's jumping and no other talking, that's all Sad Sangat.
mm,
Obviously, when we talk and I give up, we give our own Vajar, you know, like we're doing Sangat now, but some of it might not be Sad Sangat, some of it might be because we're not perfect, right?
yeah,
So we might be saying a bit of falsehood. Some of it will be, we will be saying truth.
yeah,
So Sad Sangat mainly in the Bani, from what I say, is like when you're in the Gurdwara or you're doing Kirtan, when you're talking about Sikhi, can be Sad Sangat because you're trying to talk about the truth. But
mm,
to be 101% sure, signed and sealed, is when Kirtan's going on or you're jumping Wagyu together, you know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, yeah. There's Satsangat and
Mm.
Sad Sangat as well in it, and it's like
Mm.
being in the presence of Maharaj and being in the presence
Yeah.
of those who are at one with Maharaj as well. That's I always get mixed up between Sad Sangat and Sat Sangat. Um, but yeah, one of them is Sad Sangat and the other is Sat Sangat when you're sitting with Sangat and doing Nam Bhakti. But both of them, you know, they're important, especially like if you're doing Sat Sangat in Maharaj's Hazuri, then that's, you know, Sat Sangat, you know, and Sat Sangat.
Chilo, bro. We'll call it a day then.
Chੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਬਾਬੂ ਜੀ। Thank you for
Chadika,
that.
Waheguru Ji Ka
Gusti ka
Khalsa,
khalsa, waheguru ji ki
Waheguru
fateh.
Ji Ki Fateh. Respect, bro. Cheers.
Respect.